Okay, Laura's telling me to do it.
Do it.
So I'm going to give the recap. Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, Cyclopses and Biclopses. I'm very happy to have you join us. We rejoin our party after falling out of the sky 600 feet onto a small hay bale and stable area. After the amazing, spontaneous casting of Featherfall by Laura and her nifty gift that she received from the one and only Wally, everybody was able to make a safe landing onto the area. We have Jack, who is the son of Jupiter, and going to be continually referred to as the Golden Boy. We have Cholet, who is a elven descendant who has lived upwards of 400 years in the area. And I don't know, Cholet, is this your first time visiting Troy, or you've been here before?
I think this is my first time visiting Troy.
First time visiting Troy.
I spent a lot of time at sea, so staying in one place for too long wasn't really a pastime to enjoy.
Fair enough.
Sounds like you had some issues getting your land legs.
That he did, David.
And
in the background, you may hear Laura, my lovely wife, and also Dungeon Mistress. Coloring, yes. She is the amazing coloring scheme artist behind the future Taco Temple layout. I am your Dungeon Master, typically referred to as Cornelius, or DM, or if David's feeling particularly frisky, I get called several other different names. Help is one of them.
do we want to go into detail on those names, or just let it happen organically?
We'll let it happen organically. Right about now, everybody is coming to their senses, hopefully, and they are descending down a very narrow staircase, about 10 feet down, into a much cooler interior. There is a room that opens up in front of you that appears to be a small interior parlor room that is about 10 feet wide by 10 feet long, has two benches on either side, the left and right, of the double doors that you enter into. They have a brown canvas-like covering to them and have a peach color to the wood that has been stained and hued perfectly and precisely to articulately frame around the edges of it. There are glass panels that you are able to push open inwards. You can choose brown for that if you're better. And as you enter into this area, I need everybody to establish their marching order, please.
I believe David would have been in the front because he is following his nose. It's true, Wally was right behind him.
Very true, very true. So we've got Wally following David. Jack's going to be right behind you, Wally. Cholet, where are you?
I will be right behind Jack.
Nice. There we Cholet, and then we're going to have Daniel following him. And then Laura, are you last in the pack?
Yep, sounds like it.
Fantastic. Alrighty, so Jack and Daniel are considered NPCs for this encounter. We have four main player characters. Laura. Laura, what is your class and race?
Cleric and...
I'm mouthing words to you,
Okay.
so you say you're a human cleric.
Yep, human and cleric.
Fantastic. And you are the daughter of?
Edie.
Nice. Cholet, what race and class are you again?
I am a high elf rogue.
Yeah, you're a high elf rogue. Wally, what are you?
Well, I'm a pseudo-dwarven arcane trickster.
Nice. And what was your base class?
My base class is rogue.
Correct. David, what are you?
I am a Cyclops barbarian who one of the many nicknames is the Monoclops. So yes, Monoclops barbarian. Got that Storm Herald stuff going, yo.
There you go. Love it. I do also love the picture of the taco that's already in there. Amazing job.
Left a coloring page for Laura. She can print it off and keep going.
All right, we are greeted as we enter this area by a woman standing behind the host stand at the front. She is joined by another male companion beside her. They have similar sounding names. Cholet, what are their names?
How many are there?
There are two. There is a man and a woman standing behind the host stand, greeting the two of you as you enter. What are their names?
Jack and Jill.
Jack and Jill. Nice. So this will be the second Jack in this encounter. So it might get a little tricky, but we'll have to work with it.
Jack 2.
We'll name him Jack 2, according to Laura. So they greet you upon entry, seeing David almost floating on air, smelling the beautiful aroma of the Taco Temple. David, what does the interior of the Taco Temple smell like to you?
Ooh, there are no words to describe just how good it smells. It is, if it is a smell that is good enough to pick a monoclops up off the feet and pull in from the nose, it is just the best smelling place you have ever imagined. The meat is perfect. There's all the different, I lost the word, but like the lettuce, the cheeses, the things like that. All the sauces just all combined together into like the one perfect smell of I never want to leave this place because it smells too good.
Amazing. And there's something unique about this place as well. Since you are descending down to it. Yeah, taking a picture would be fantastic. Thank you. Since you are descending down to it, you notice that the air in the room is tangibly much colder than the surrounding exterior air that you just exited from. Upon entering, you are noticed immediately and spotted by Jack and Jill, and they both greet you, uniquely and slightly different. One of them, Jill, says, "Hi, welcome to the Taco Temple." The other one says, "Hi, welcome aboard. What can we do for you?"
Darling, so what's the daily special then?
You see that Jack points over to his left-hand side, since he's facing towards you, gesticulating to the drawn-out and beautifully drawn menu on the side, and it shows several different takeout and takeaway options, several different dine-in options for tacos, burritos, and nachos. They also have a secret small section. They say secret. It's written in bright green letters on the bottom. It says secret gorditas section with like 3 R's in it. Gorditas. We have this menu here if you wanted to take a look and peruse. We do also have some open tables available to you as well if you wanted to sit down and dine with us. How many are in your party?
Do a quick head count. There's what? 6 of us? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah.
All right, we could definitely accommodate a table for 6. Is it only going to be the 6 of you today?
Yeah, we're not expecting anyone else. You got a booth by the window.
Well, seeing as we're underground, we don't really have very many windows, but we definitely have something for you, my friend.
Sounds lovely. Which way's the table?
As soon as I'm done uploading it, I will direct you to your table.
Able to stream it through here as well. I'm having a lot of issues trying to get onto Twitch to watch the stream for the maps.
Oh, no worries.
It has decided to give me the error cannot find Twitch because reasons.
Totally fine. Is everybody able to see the editing page I have open?
I see the screen.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I can see the map.
Totally fine. Let me see if I can pull up the Taco Temple, and I will be sure to ask if Wally and Cholet find this uniquely familiar.
Alright, what exactly? Oh, I think you're reminding me of something. What is it?
It's reminding you of something very meta, possibly how we all met.
Oh, right.
Was that a quick snuffed laugh over there, Shelley?
Yeah.
And what does this remind you
There's
of?
something overlapping it too, or whatever you're trying to overlap it with.
I'm trying to edit this down a size so that way we can utilize this as the mini map.
Jeez, these DMs don't fret.
Jesus. Well, you enter in, and as you are directed, there's a couple of different areas of interest to you that you could go to. They offer, Jack reaches into a small compartment on the side of the host stand and calls to the group, would you like to sit in the bar or the dining area?
Well, certainly the bar. Oh, definitely.
Definitely the
What
bar.
is that big sort of cornerish sort of booth over there? Don't suppose that's available.
One moment, please. Let me go make sure that area is cleared up for you. You see, he reaches into his pocket, rings a small bell. You see a small, very slender young man comes walking forward, shaved head with what looks to be a thick, coarse black hair, but really short cut. He's about 6 inches shorter than Wally. He comes turning around the corner from behind the host stand and walks up and says, "You rang?" "Yeah, Jose, can you go clean off that table for us, please?" "I am evil. I hope you know this, Laura. You married this." Alright, so, Wally, you had a couple of different options available to you for where you would like to take the rest of your party. David, not being too familiar with the naming conventions and orientations of this map, probably wouldn't know immediately what the name of the different rooms are or the names of the different seating arrangement options are. Do you have a defined directive you want to take to where you're heading as you're going to the bar? Do you have a preference of which seats you take? Do you sit at the bar top? Do you sit at one of the large booths?
I would guess that only one of the seating areas available would work for our group of 6, given that 2 of them are Cyclops. We probably wouldn't fit in that corner area. But I do think I heard when someone was asking, when the host was asking someone to clean up, they said something about a 116, a 117, and maybe putting those together. I think that's a good idea. I'll just let the host do their thing.
Okay. You notice as the young busser Jose walks over towards the edge of the 2 tables and combines them together, adjusting the seats as necessary. He looks over and sees the large Cyclops figures, David almost hovering on air, Daniel shortly behind him, and he goes over and grabs 2 of the larger chairs from the bar, the stools that are there, and drags those over. They look to be of sturdier, thicker material and definitely Cyclops size. He tosses 2 of the other chairs out, brings those to it, and is going to be heading the table for it with those 2 small chairs. So everybody is led over to the table, sit down. David and Daniel sitting at the heads of the tables opposite each other, looking at each other. Daniel, for the first time you've seen David, you see this immense hunger in his eye. He is drooling, positively just drooling as you watch. His lips are getting licked frequently. He's looking over and eyeing the other tables as he's passing by. He definitely looks quite starved after that huge free fall you guys just had. Alright, so everybody sits down. And I'm going to see if I can edit this. That way I can actually combine these tables. And voila, I can. If only it was that easy when we worked there. And I will even see if I can. See if I can. As I'm getting better with these tools. Maneuver it so everybody can get their own seats. Nice. Alright. We now have a very long table ready for everyone. Who's going to be our server? Let's get a consensus. Who do we want to have be our server? Let's have a little bit of input from Shotley. How tall is our server?
Our server is 4'10".
4'10". A little on the short side, but definitely convinced that he's at least 5 feet. Let's go with Wally. What would you say his complexion is? How old? Is he weathered, haggard? What is the complexion of our server, Wally?
He is heavy-set, Asian, very old. Like Mr. Miyagi plus about 100 pounds.
Alright. Let's get a little bit of insight from Laura. As he's approaching you, he walks with a slight swagger to him. Do you think that he's overconfident with his ability, or do you think that he is so knowledgeable that that's what makes him competent? Is he good at his job or not?
No, he's not good at his job.
Alright.
Oh.
Alright, and last but not least, David. What's his name? You see it on his name tag as he walks up.
It is first name begins with an L, so it's L period Jenkins.
L period Jenkins. Alright. So he approaches. Everybody is sitting amongst the table. As soon as you immediately take your seats, you wiggle in nicely. You're able to promptly open up your menus, and before you're even able to take a look at anything on it, he approaches, introducing himself with a slight swagger about him, pushes his hair out of his face, looks over at the table, says, "Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Taco Temple. Would you like to hear our specials of the day? Or may I get you started with anything to drink? Maybe a tankard for the lovely couple in the corner." He points over at Jack and Shotley. "Or maybe for you, Biggin, would you like a tall boy? What would you like?" As he points over at David.
What do you have to drink here?
Well, we have quite the options. We have some hot beverages, cold beverages, tall beverages, short beverages. We have some red and we have some blue. We have some green and we have some for you. What kind of beverages would you like? We have sodas of all kinds. We have some of the teas that are known far and wide. I'm sorry, I can only improvise so many words.
Do you have lemonade?
I do, yes. We squeeze it fresh daily with the nymphs in the back. What kind of lemonade do you like? We have some with grapefruit and some with raspberry and some with strawberry too.
Just a regular lemonade.
Ooh.
Really?
Lemonade machine broke. She actually quit the other day, but I think I can go get some for you. I can definitely see if we can have some of the lemon flavored lemonade available for you.
If not, then strawberry would be better. If there's not the lemon flavored lemonade, then strawberry lemonade is perfectly fine.
Alright. Sorry, was that giving you flashbacks there, Laura, of how we don't actually have lemonade at the Taco Temple?
It's fun.
What about you? My friend here with the fine beard. I see that you have some thick-rimmed goggles on. You might be the most intelligent one at the table. What may I get you to drink, sir?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, by far.
I'll just. You've got ale, right? You got some sort of ale?
Yes, we have some fine ale of the 805 area code.
Alright, I'll take a tankard, a stein, a pitcher. How you serve it?
We serve it by the pint. Or by the cask if you're that thirsty.
I'll have a pint, but for now, you see the monoclops I'm traveling with here. We may require larger serving options later.
I do see that you have two at the table. I'm quite happy that they gave me this large structural anomaly over here between these two tables, so that way I can definitely serve these two fine guests that have arrived. But what about you, grayish-looking one? I believe you didn't introduce yourself, but let me introduce myself first. My name is Jenkins. Most of my friends do call me by my proper name, Leroy! But you can just call me Leroy. That'd be nice.
I'll just take a bottle of sparkle.
Man of class.
As he's taking everybody else's order, I look around suspiciously for the room.
All right. Go ahead and roll a perception check, my friend. You notice that there are quite a few things out of place. There's a mismatch of technology present and arcane magics at work here. You notice behind the bar he has a computer screen that you're very familiar with having used in 2000s, which is the year you're from, not back in ancient Troy. You recognize that this is by far something that is completely and utterly an anomaly that you did not expect to see here underneath the city of Troy. You also look about and you see that there are some dwarves, some elves, some cyclopses, some nymphs. You see some other demigods, some of them wearing the orange shirts that you're familiar with, but they're more of like a toga style. But the orange color is still the definitely bright, cliche orange color that is easily identifiable from about a mile away, which makes you wonder why you guys wear it and why you're always constantly attacked by monsters. But you never know. Maybe somebody else someday will come up with a better color. Until then, orange is the color, and orange it will be. And you notice it at just about every other table. There is one or two members that are wearing that orange color. You do notice that our friend Jenkins here, your server, is dressed in all black, does have a black apron, and his name tag does have a colored in taco shape, similar to what was posted in the Discord chat. In particular, you are familiar that it was hand-colored in, and you suspect by him, and you get a little confused at the taco's color scheme for it, because it's kind of a greenish color. You suspect he might be colorblind. Is there anything else you look to perceive about the room as you're ordering your sparkling Pellegrino? And you, miss, what would you like to drink? You've been quiet up till now. Why don't you tell me? What may I provide for you?
Just water, please.
All right. You don't want any of the sparkling water like a friend? Would you like bottled or tap? What can I get you?
Just tap is fine.
All right. You see Daniel perks up. It's like, I want what Wally's having. That sounds good. And Jack follows Cholet's lead, puts his arm around Cholet for a moment, says, I'll have what he's having, and points down a little bit at Cholet as if he's trying to shoulder up and just puff out his chest a little bit and point down towards you. All right. Well, then let me go fetch that for you, gentlemen and lady. I'll be back in but a moment. He then takes off. You hear that as the door he leaps through near the edge of the bar shutters closed. So, who's hungry? You're looking at the menu. You see it's got a lot of different taco combination, create your own platters and plates. You have a couple of different combinations for lunches and dinner. It's currently lunchtime, so as you're flipping thumb through the menu, it's a lot of tacos, burritos. They have some a la carte options as well. But they have just about everything you could think of at a Mexican cantina.
Is there a section that's got like some fully loaded platters, like double-decker enchiladas or some nastiness?
Double-decker enchiladas. Yes, that's available under the appetizer section as well.
Double-decker enchiladas as an appetizer?
Oh yeah, they're used to feeding minotaurs and cyclopses. They think that if you don't eat a whole cart's worth of food, you have not even finished breakfast.
I'm glad you clarified that, because for a minute Wally was a little worried that this was a harpy-related establishment. Little fairies coming in here. I'll have a double-decker enchilada, and then someone hands him like a Barbie burrito.
All right. A moment passes. Our server Jenkins approaches. He's got a small brimmed round device in his hand that is holding the beverages afloat. It is floating just 6 inches above his hand. He's not actually touching it. And he reaches over and removes the small drinks. He puts a lemonade in front of David. It has this pinkish hue to it for you, David. He puts a pint in front of Wally, a pint in front of Daniel, a water in front of Laura, and 2 sparkling waters in front of Jack and Cholet. He pops the top off of them, puts a crystal clear glass in front of you with a slice of lime on it.
I'm gonna look up and down the table. Anybody still need a minute? Or are we ready to order? Because, I think David's gonna start eating the table if we're not careful.
Not this time.
Well, Daniel might.
Daniel nods along. Yeah, I'm getting kind of hungry, guys.
I point to Daniel. My God, just start with him.
I'd like the taco salad and the taco burrito and the taco and put lots of chicken on it and some napkins, please. All right, you got it, sir. What about you? For you, Missy, what would you like?
Just the taco salad, please.
All right. For you there, other monocloptic friend, what can I get for you?
Can I get? I'm gonna point at Daniel. Can I get what he's getting? Well, could I get a towel instead of napkins?
All right, I can definitely include the napkins for you as well. Those are free of charge, my friend. They are limited 2 per customer, though.
Oh, now you're starting to fight.
And what about you, sir? What can I get you? Are you enjoying your pint?
Oh, no, it's delicious. That's fantastic. On the order of the double-decker enchiladas, let's do the first layer con carne, and let's do the bottom layer con camarón, if that's alright. And then, actually, I think I'd like to try this bottomless vegan nacho promotion you've got going on here. I have a feeling a lady friend over here might like to split those with me once they're here.
You're the only lady at the table,
Yes,
Laura.
I am.
That Shotley's got a secret.
Laura's just gonna give him a look.
Pay no attention to those 2 lovebirds. They're in their own world. I say, motioning to Jack and Cholet.
Jack pipes up, says, I want the hottest plate of nachos you've ever had. I want it positively sizzling. Can I get some fajitas too? Fajitas. Sorry, Laura's correct my pronunciation. I want the carne fajita, please, with some corn tortilla, if that's possible.
On a white corn tortilla.
Carne con vagina?
Yeah. Isn't that how you pronounce it, right? This is actually painful for me.
Comes with a complimentary quesadilla.
Oh, I love quesadillas.
I swear I'm gonna stab somebody.
Don't stab anyone, I'm the only one in the room.
And a little bit of guacamole. Alright, so, no offense, but no enough. I mean, you know, life's uncertain, so I say you dessert first. Could you bring me an order of maybe like some apple empanadas or something like that, just in case?
Absolutely. What about you for my undead friend?
I'll take the seafood goblet.
The seafood goblet. Nice. Good choice. Now, that one does actually come with a little bit of tequila. Are you over 21?
Yeah.
Go ahead and roll persuasion here.
Roll a fake ID check.
16.
Alright. You look at least old enough to drink. Tell me, what was the last beverage you had that was alcoholic?
I look back at my team like, well, it really hasn't been since took that cab ride over to the airport.
Okay. Well, I'll definitely get you that seafood goblet. Anybody have any dietary allergies or anything I should be aware of before I place your order? Anybody gluten-free? Anybody, vegan?
The boy's allergic to carrots, but I don't think you're using those to cook with, are you?
There's a little bit of that in the taco salad, but he should be good. He didn't order that.
Alright. So, no nibbling off of David's plate, you two.
Alright, well, I'm going to go get this order placed. We do bring out heads of cabbages to start off with. Please feel free to help yourself. They do come with some lovely dipping sauces. There's some ranch, some barbecue, and a little bit of ketchup on the side as well if you are so inclined. Your waitress will be over shortly with those, and I'll go place your order. He then stands upright to a full height of 4 foot 10 inches, puffs out his chest, pretending it's a full 5 feet, claps twice, and you see the door opens up behind him, and a very attractive young woman comes spurring out of there, long red hair flowing behind her, and you recognize her. It is Rodney, nonetheless, that comes spurring out of there, carrying a huge tray of steamed cabbages and several sets of dipping sauce, opens up a small tray jack, sets it down, and starts passing out small plates, puts the heads of cabbages, and Jack's jaw just hits the table for a moment as he stares at Rodney working.
Wally just keeps drinking his beer, slowly sipping, not saying a word, just looking back and forth between the two of them, waiting for something to happen.
She, without looking up at him, continues to place down all of the cabbages, all of the dipping sauces, hands out some more napkins, looks about the table with a quick cursory glance, lingers for a second on Jack, picks up her tray and leaves. Lawrence met Rodney on the ship.
So that just happened.
Thanks, Dick.
Actually.
Hey guys, who was that? Says Daniel. Why do you all look like you know her? Jack just rubs his forehead. You see small bits of lightning streak out across it occasionally. As you can see, he's visibly getting stressed out by the just proximity of Rodney and the lack of social interaction.
It's a long story.
Okay then. Well, I'm still getting kind of hungry. I think I'm gonna dig into these cabbages. You reach out, extending one meaty paw forward, grips the whole head of the cabbage, and instead of peeling any of it off the dip, just lifts it up, plate and all, and just bites into it, and you hear the shattering of the plate and crunching, the grinding on his teeth as he just munches.
Good cabbage?
It's kind of crunchy.
Must be the croutons.
Oh, they have croutons here too? David, why didn't you order some croutons?
That's a crouton.
You know how sometimes when you eat a salad, there's little crunchy bits in it? So that's croutons.
I thought that's usually the plate. Alright.
I mean, alright, fair enough. Gotta be bold.
So, is there anyone else in the Taco Temple dining areas, or are we the only people in there?
Go ahead and roll perception, my friend.
Perception, that's going to be an 8.
Nice. As you look about in the room, you notice some familiar faces. Some that you feel you very recently saw as you were leaving Camp Half-Blood.
Oh?
Some of them look to be so familiar that you recognize them and know them by name. But your voice falters for a moment, where you don't feel confident in your answer. You recognize their facial structures, but you know it to not be them for a moment. Anybody ever have those moments in dreams? What, just me?
I mean, I have those moments in life.
It's all very real.
Yes, it is. After a few moments, you see the same red-haired woman come back to refill your plates. Replace your plates and refill the cabbages. She doesn't even look surprised in the slightest that most of the plates have been eaten by one or both of the Cyclopses. And you notice that as she approaches, Jack looks to try to catch her attention, but kind of coyly lowers his hand and just averts his gaze, looking towards Shotley. Do you think she knows us?
I don't know, but I'm just keeping loose, not making eye contact.
Maybe that's the right thing to do, Shotley. And you look back in this moment where you share this sort of very vulnerable moment with Jack. You hear from both Daniel and David as they're still crunching on plates in the side. Tastes really good with the ketchup, David.
Oh.
Do you like the Thousand Island or the ranch better?
Ooh, Thousand Island.
While you finish your pint, Daniel finishes his at about the same time. Shotley and Jack finish their sparkling water. And you recognize it's been a few minutes until your server reappears and comes walking back forward. And it's at this point that David actually makes his perception check to inspect the area. You notice that the bar top is entirely full of other patrons that are there. You recognize that every bar top stool, every small section of the front bar area that you're in has their own patrons there. Somebody is sitting in every available seat, and the front of it is now standing room only as everybody is waiting to get sat. It is definitely quite the poppin' place.
I guess we got to what we did was good.
Yeah, apparently. Shotley, you do also keenly notice that a lot of the patrons that are coming and going are definitely not from this time era. You recognize a few of them as people that you've come across in your travels, people that you've heard about from time to time in different areas that you've been to, and you recognize a few of the figures. In fact, you find it strange that some of them are even fictitious characters that are appearing here.
I kind of look around before I quietly whisper to the party, like, hey, something's going up with this place. Things aren't adding up. The tech's too advanced to be here this time era. The people around here don't belong at this time. We don't really go under either.
Are we in a dream of some sort? Did we not figure that out? I mean, I thought we were inside Biggin's head or something.
No, we didn't fall into my head. We fell into the pool.
Oh, alright. So, this is a real place then, with all these things that aren't supposed to be here. Oh, in that case, I agree with Chotley. Burn it down.
I don't know. Most pools I fall into don't lead to the sky, so I don't know what can happen.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either.
It's pretty cool though.
Alright, another moment passes, and eventually you find yourselves getting quite hungry as your server reappears. Jenkins approaches. You see that he has in his hands a small stove cooking utensil. Sorry, a small, almost campfire propellant in his hand. It is a small cylinder that extends upwards 2 inches and forms a small canister-like shape. The canister itself has the top popped open, ignited, and in his other hand he has a small metallic contraption that looks to be a stand and pot. He sets the canister down first, clears the rest of the plates, and then puts the stand on top of it. And you notice inside there's this large cauldron shape filled with fondue and cheese. He says, sorry for your wait. My manager sends this over with her kind regards. Thank you for your patience. David, you are left with Daniel. Only a few small bits of plate left as you reach in and scoop up the cheese, and you bite it, and it is absolutely divine. It is beautifully melted, gooey, a combination of mozzarella and fonduta that you've never had before. And it definitely reeks of really old cheese. And you get so fixated on it for a moment that you totally forget to look about you. Wally, Laura, and Shotley, please roll a perception check, please. Oh, I forget.
Also 11.
Alright, so we have Shotley and Laura that are going to be the first to notice that a lot of the other patrons in here seem to be wearing familiar clothes, and their their logos on their clothing definitely reflect the time era that you're from. The more you look at them, the more you recognize that you have seen them, but not from when you were part of the group that's been here. And as you look at somebody, you whisper over to each other, trying to describe the people, and you notice that your descriptions of the same person that's standing there don't add up. Where Wally might look at somebody and say, wow, that guy's really old. Shelley might look over him and be like, that's a toddler that's sitting on the bench next to his mom. Sort of scenario where you have bodies where you'd expect to see a person, but you all individually see different people. And you recognize them from throughout your own personal histories. Shole, when you were looking over at some of the benches that are nearby with other guests that are dining, you see some of the former crew members that you've had, some members of Hermes' cabin that have come and gone throughout the years. Wally, as you look over there, you see some automatons and statues that you are very familiar with, and some previous teachers, some people that you remember being in Scotland with you, some people that you very faintly remember having helped you cross over to where you are during your pilgrimage here. Some people that you know are long dead, but they're still here. Laura, as you look about the area, you notice as Wally's eyes start to get a little bigger, and Shole's eyes get a little bigger, and Jack's as well, because they're all starting to put these bits and pieces together, these small clues as to what's going on here. And David and Daniel are just digging into the fondue. How does this make you feel?
Well, I guess I turn to I noticed that Wally, Shitley, and Jack
Mhm.
are all having this reaction. So I guess I just asked, like, what are you guys staring at?
I mean, I don't know if everyone else is seeing what I'm seeing, but if I had to guess, I'd look over around at everybody else's faces and see their reactions are similar to mine. I think Chotlay's right. I don't think this is. I don't know. The rules of reality don't really seem to operate the way they did before we walked in here.
Oh yes, your food is ready. Let's bring it all out. You see Jenkins carries both with his own arms 2 large serving trays and platters. He has an ensemble of other people following behind him, some shorter than him, most of them taller than him. As he walks out, sets up the trays, sets up the jacks, gets everything ready, and sets to pass out plate after plate after plate after plate. And he then recognizes his mistake for a moment as he looks over at Wally and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. I know you asked to get your double-decker enchilada as your appetizer. The kitchen is just so backed up. I got it out for you as fast as I could. It came out with everything else. I hope that's all right, sir."
That's fine.
All right.
You got the vegan nachos.
Oh, they're right next to the apple empanadas next to it as well. The kitchen seems to mix up a lot of the tickets I send back there.
Sure they do.
Which is why I asked. He's good at that at his job.
Right.
To steer this encounter.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you enjoy it. Does anybody need a refill on beverage? I know you over there, a monocloptic one. You look like you're running a little low on your pints. Would you like another? Daniel nods along, still mouth full of cheese. It's dripping from his fingers all over his shirt. He just nods along. Mm-hmm. David, you're also running a little low on your pink lemonade, your raspberry lemonade, which you are very keen to notice was not what you ordered.
It still tastes good. It's still lemonade.
Mm-hmm. It's a little tart, a little sweet. Makes your lips pucker just a little bit. You still gotta kind of swirl the bottom because it looks a little syrupy down there, but still tasty.
Oh, yeah. I would like some more of that also.
Alright. You there, I didn't catch your name, but sir, would you like some more of your pints as well? Looks like you're almost done with that. Would you like another round of the local draft?
Oh, most definitely.
Fantastic. And you two, the lovely couple in the corner, would you like some more of your sparkling water? I see one of you definitely finished the bottle, the other barely touched it. Would you like another bottle?
I look over to Jack. You got this?
If you want it, by all means, just drink it. Since we do share everything, right? And he puts his hand on your leg. Right?
Yep. I take the rest of it all.
You just swig it back, or you pour it? What are you doing?
Pour it in my glass.
Okay. Classy man that you are. Of course you just pour it in your glass. Alright, well done. He then departs for a moment. You have a second amongst yourselves to keenly discern what is and is not what you ordered. A few other servers walk by, occasionally pointing out things, talking and whispering to their managers, scratching their heads, and then departing. None of them actually coming up and talking to you. But you see that there's quite a few other frustrated servers looking back and nodding along. They're talking over in the corner by the bar, shaking their head. He brings back the non-alcoholic drinks first. He brings out another round of lemonade, another round of sparkling water, a refill of water for Laura, and he waits a couple minutes. You watch over at the bar as the bartender that's there pours pints, sets them off to the side. They seem to be frothing and completely ice-chilled on the outside and look absolutely delicious. You see them sit there for a few minutes. You take a couple more bites. You see a few servers walk by. You take a few more bites. You wait and wait. You watch as the ice on the beer melts. The foam at the top dissipates. You hear the amber alerts in the area go off.
Green on the
I was gonna
Civic.
say, I just got one as well.
As surprise.
Oh, that'll date us. They'll definitely know when this was recorded then. Anybody cares to know. But hopefully that green Honda Civic gets caught before your beer gets too cold. Eventually you notice that another server comes walking by, picks out a small wooden utensil, stirs it up as if trying to make it frothy again, and brings them over and places them in front of Daniel and Wally. Sorry, is that too real for you there, Wally?
It's quite real. Wally doesn't care. He runs cafeterias. He knows all the tricks. He's just gonna drink his beer and keep his mouth shut.
Alright. Daniel, without even looking up, just pounds it back, opens his mouth, dislocates his jaw. You see that his throat seems to enlarge momentarily as the whole glass.
Was that yours?
That one's mine, yeah. His whole neck just seems to enlarge and elongate as he shoves the glass and all down his throat, Python style, swallowing it whole. And he appears, for all intents and purposes, to mostly be a bottomless pit. He seems to eat everything that's put in front of him, and he starts to reach over towards Wally's double-decker. You see he reaches for the carne section, and then you see as he pulls away part of it.
Slapping his hand. Hell no, I'm slapping his hand. I'm gonna slap the vegan nachos towards him because those were bottomless. It's a promotion, dude.
But I like the carne.
Well, then you should have ordered one.
I did order one. I ordered the carne tacos and the carne burrito tacos and the other quesadilla taco.
None of those things are the enchiladas that you're currently trying to take from me.
I'm sorry,
Here
Wally.
are some vegan nachos. If you'd like to steal some of my food, steal the bottomless one.
Well, then it's not stealing if you look. Can you at least look away?
I look away, shielding my empanadas and my enchiladas whilst attempting to shove them both into my mouth at the same time to protect.
Go ahead and roll perception. This time with advantage.
It's a roll to unhinged jaw.
No advantage necessary. The first roll was 20.
You are very keenly aware as you avert your gaze and try to stuff your face of every single nacho chip he picks up and just how much cheese is on it, because you suspect very little of it actually got in his mouth. You look behind him and it is covering the wall. He is still so hungry, his fingers have been acting like small shovels and flinging food at his face at a rapid pace, and it is decorating behind him nicely.
Alright, I'm just gonna say this once. He is not getting on my ship. Why not? Would you look at the man? And I point at the Van Gogh forming around him in silhouette.
What do you mean I'm not getting on your ship? I don't know how we're getting out of here.
Well, we find another way in here. I'm assuming we'll find another way out. But, all I'm saying is, I'm not letting Mr. Messy Pants anywhere near anything.
My pants are clean! Thank you. They're yours, aren't they? Oh no, they're David's. You're right.
Well, what if he had his best behavior, or whatever that means?
This is my best behavior.
We'll just line his. If we have to take him on the ship, we'll just line his cap in the trash bags or something.
Alongside your 20, you do notice the beautiful painting that he's making behind him. But you also notice about that the rest of the building seems to be emptying out quite quickly. And it's not necessarily alarming, but definitely noticeable. And not as in this is the evening time, everybody go home, but spontaneously people look startled and scared, leaving behind full plates of food, pints that have only had a couple of sips off the top. You see some fruity drinks with lots of whipped cream on them. The cherry is still on it. The straws are still like with the little bits of white paper on the top. People are leaving in a hurry.
Do you know, actually, I'm starting to come around on him. He certainly knows how to clear out a party. We'll never have to wait for a table again. Though, admittedly, we didn't have to wait for one this time. Maybe it's useful.
You notice, as you're having this conversation, a few members of the staff inside of there as well are talking. You can hear them because now it's almost eerily quiet since there's nobody in there, including the bartender. Everybody seems to have dissipated from the area, including the other rooms across the way that wouldn't have direct eyesight of Daniel Eden are also dissipating and leaving. Some of them just running out of there. You hear a few screams, run for the hills! As people are leaving and vacating the area. This does appear quite foreboding and a little ominous, especially since you are familiar with the story of Troy and familiar with the boats that you saw approaching from the horizon as you were falling.
Yeah, this don't sound good.
You guys should formulate a plan while I go get more coffee.
So while our DM is excusing himself to get more go juice,
What exactly is it we think's about to happen here?
I think the boats are attacking.
So the boats are attacking the mainland, or is that what we think?
I think the boats. They
Charlie, what do you
coming over here?
What do you think, Charlie? What's going on here?
I think we should get out. I suppose we assume.
I mean, I don't know how exactly we got in though. So I mean, what we gonna do? Fly up into the sky until we come out of the pool? I mean, I don't know exactly where we are, so I don't know exactly how to get out. It seems like we're stuck here until whatever happens, or until we do whatever it is we're supposed to do.
David did have a thought though during the food.
David had a thought? Please share.
David is going to be like, hey Wally, since we're in this whatever place this is, does your Kirby thing still work in here?
Now that is a remarkably clever question, Monocrops. Do you know, I think you've been reading a bit too much, or a bit too little. I'm not sure which. I don't know how it works with you.
Every so often, the two brain cells that are kind of like screensaver bouncing in the brain area get close enough together, and a thought happens. Like a
alright, so let's give it a shot. Let's see, what could we, somebody give me something, what do we need? Kirby, can I get a Taco Temple doggy bag?
As you request the Taco Temple doggy bag from Kirby, you find it eerily quiet that you get no answer back.
Right, so I'd say that's another nail in the, we are not in the world we came from coffin.
At least we know now that we're outside of Kirby delivery range.
Yeah, and I'm not entirely sure how we get back to wherever it is we came from. I mean, why are we here? Is there something we're supposed to see? Something we're supposed to do? I know we fell in a pool, but judging from the look on your face when you fell in, Biggin, I'm guessing you didn't have too much choice in it.
Yeah, this felt oddly compelled to just fall in the pool.
Compelled? That word in their calendar is just making such a difference for you.
It's the reading sessions with moral lawyers really helping me learn my words.
Do you know, I've got to say, fantastic addition to our party. She's brought the overall intelligence up by 1 per person.
She has stepped away for a moment, but we'll definitely be sure to take note of the compliment, Wally.
Oh, for sure. I'd say permanent lower buff. Everyone gets plus 8 to intelligence.
Ooh, they really use that.
Alright. Cholet. You notice that your beverage has been empty for a few moments, your food has been left untouched, and you've pushed it off as dictated by normal commonplace to signify that you are done eating. You notice as you're waiting for a few moments that your server doesn't come back.
At this point, I'm going to attempt to stealthily go to where he came from originally with all the hot food.
Fantastic. Go ahead and roll stealth. Okay.
Plus 10 really kick it up.
That it is. You would know, based off of your interactions before with back of house and the methodologies for sneaking around that you've previously employed inside of camp, that if nobody is there to see you, you don't really need to sneak all that much. But even so, you do cling to the shadows as best you can, making sure to find the most direct but out of line of sight path. Is everybody able to see on the map the gray star that is Shotley? Mm-hmm. Alright, you make your way towards the doors that he had used to previously find and get the food from. As you open the doors stealthily, you peer inside of the area and notice that all of the back of house staff are gone. That it is entirely vacant behind these doors. You see the many different staging areas of all of the components for the taqueria, the taco temple back here. You notice off to the right hand side where all the caldos have prepared all of these soups and different sauces that are needed. You notice that they have these huge cauldrons that are sitting on top of very old-fashioned logs and bonfires that have these huge, thick iron pots on them. You notice in the middle section they have these thick, large, and rectangular flat-top grills. A very contrasting method of cooking here because they use flat-top gas grills, but in the backside they have open bonfires and pit-like areas. It's a strange combination and clashing cultures used to cook this area. Off the left-hand side, you do also notice that there is the taco staging area. They have these 3 different tiers of taco setups, as if there are 3 different kitchen staff operating from each area at a time. And it is definitely well stocked, well prepared, and was previously in use because you still see some bits of meat still on the open grill top. You see some of the fires beneath the caldos still lit. You see hunks of lettuce that have been picked up and plopped on top of plates of tacos, still dribbling with more of the taco seasoning and sauces, still mixed matched and splattered across it. Everybody left in quite a hurry.
Maybe we should see what's outside.
Do you call back, Chalet, to let everybody know what you've seen?
I do. Yeah, like, there's nobody back here.
At this point, I'm going to get up from the table, walk around the end of the bar, and look to see if there are any to-go materials stashed somewhere where I can see them.
You do find a few sets of towels, napkins, cutlery, and plastic to-go bags, and clamshell plastic boxes as well.
Am I wearing my backpack like I was when I was awake? I mean, I talked to Kirby, so I'm assuming I am.
Yes, you do still have your backpack.
Okay, so I would like to stuff, when I opened my backpack, was Kirby in there? He just didn't do anything?
When you open your backpack, you look inside your pack and see that there is a black void inside of it that is positively sucking light into it. You suspect that Kirby's purpose has been changed, or maybe descriptions aren't the same as they previously were. Kirby is no longer a black box, but seems to be a ominous void, like a almost closed black pouch inside of there, but doesn't have a seam or zipper. It appears to be a bag of holding now.
Okay, I would like to then immediately start stuffing as many of the towels and napkins in there as I possibly can. I would also like to take as many of the unopened bottles of liquor as I can grab and throw those in there. You never know, could get lonely later. And I would also like to grab the biggest to-go bag I can find and stuff as much of the food off the table into it as I possibly can that someone's not going to eat it. So everything Chotley left there, the stuff, all of my stuff, any plate that Daniel didn't eat.
Do you have a writing implement and something to write on your side of the screen, my friend?
I do have a second. As I'm doing so, I would like to glance around the room real quick and see if there are any fires lit anywhere nearby. Are there hearts anywhere in the room?
You do notice that there is one lit that was previously being utilized by some of the bartending staff back there. You would recognize this as to be where they are interacting with the soda font, the small handle and contraption that connects to some sort of syrupy goodness back there for the Sprite, the Coke, all of those branded trademark beverages that are able to be squirted in to make these cocktails. Below that is a hearth that is burning presently.
Fantastic. I would like to grab the tastiest looking beef enchilada off the top layer of the top of what is left of my enchiladas.
As soon as you left the table, Daniel stuffed it in his face.
That asshole.
The only ones that are left, not the entire plate. He left all of the seafood ones. He doesn't eat seafood.
Well, thank Christ for that. Alright, I'm going to walk over and I'm going to see that the beef one's gone. I'm going to look at Daniel and go, this, right here, this is why you're not coming near anything I did. People with a little bit of class who know how to share with others, they get nice toys from me. Isn't that right, David?
Yeah.
So maybe if you could learn how to ask before you just take things, you might have more friends and might not be driving a dopey bus for a bunch of evil people. But since that's what you like, you my friend, can find your own way as far as I'm concerned.
Wally, go ahead and roll initiative.
That's initiative. Hang on. I wish a motherfucker would try to take a swing at me right now. Seriously. Stealing everyone's food and he just thinks that's okay. Initiative, that's, is that still applicable? Sorry, I'm looking at the paper sheet trying to stuff it.
Everybody can go ahead and roll initiative as well.
Oh, man.
So it's a D20 and an initiative.
Yes, I'm rolling for job two.
Right there, yeah, there it is. Okay, yeah, so that's a 6 for me.
It's gonna be an 8, right?
Go for Laura. And then go for Danny.
Oh, jeez.
Alright.
Trying to do one thing.
Who yelled at the bus driver.
David, did you choose to roll initiative? Are you going to be part of this?
David did roll initiative. He got a 10.
We are not on his bus. He needs to know his role.
So, in our initiative order, we start with Laura. Laura, you notice that Daniel's face is bright, vibrant red. He has a mixture of a few different emotions in him. Go ahead and roll insight.
16.
You recognize a few different emotions present inside of him. You have seen this facial expression before in other Cyclopses. In particular, you've noticed this before David rages. You've seen a very similar sort of demeanor. His body language changes ever so slightly. But you also notice a small bit of embarrassment, which you recognize with your high intelligence and great insight, that can be a great motivator to fight and to not back down.
Right.
So you think that this is definitely going south quite quickly.
How close is Laura to Daniel?
You're about 3 feet away. You're sitting. He's at the head of one table. You are 3 feet out from him on his right hand side.
Right.
You're sitting in the chair, not the booth side.
And where is he looking right now?
His eye has not left Wally. Wally is on the booth side between Daniel and Jack.
Right.
And then Charlotte is next to Jack, and Wally's
Well, I
between
got
Jack.
up because I raided the bar before I came back.
Oh, that's right. Wally's no longer sitting there,
Yeah.
so Daniel's just staring over at Wally.
Okay. And there's nothing in between the two of them.
Other than open bar area.
I don't know. Laura just might try to talk him down, not do anything. I don't know. Yeah. Laura's just gonna try to talk to Daniel.
Talk to him.
Okay.
You notice as he starts to breathe heavier and heavier, you notice veins in his neck and top of his forehead start to bulge and pulsate with his heartbeat.
Okay. Laura's not gonna touch him or anything because she doesn't want to scare him or trigger anything.
Triggered.
But yeah, pretty much. But she's gonna try to get him to turn away from Wally and look at her. And she'll say, Daniel, I can tell that you're frustrated.
Yeah, I'm frustrated.
And we know that Wally doesn't like people touching his things.
So Wally calls me mean names.
That's true.
I'm gonna turn him into paste.
He does, but we see a lot of people really scared right now and running around. And if we start fighting amongst ourselves, we're not going to be able to help all of these scared people in the building right now.
I don't care about anybody else. I want Wally to apologize.
Laura's going to turn to Wally. Is there any chance right now that you're going to apologize?
I'm going to stare at the Cyclops. I'm going to look back at Laura. I'm going to stare at the Cyclops. I'm going to look back at Laura. And I'm going to go... If he answers me one question, and he answers it honestly, I might.
Okay. I think that's a good step. What's your question?
I want to look at him dead in the eye and go, have you ever actually had a friend before?
Yes, I have had friends. I've had many friends.
Are you telling me the truth right now? Because the way you handle food, the way you handle sharing, the way you handle handshakes with fellow Cyclops, all of that makes me think that you know.
Go ahead and roll insight. And Laura, you can
that's
as well.
Nat 20, so even with my 0 wisdom bonus.
All right. As you look at him and see really into the heart of this creature that's in front of you, you recognize that he's quite disheveled, quite heartbroken, and seems to be more than anything lonely. You know from your past Pardon?
Do I see a kindred antisocial loner?
I'm getting to it. You recognize, based off of your past interactions with Cyclopses before they get to camp and once they're at camp, how they do or do not blend in well with the camp. You're very familiar with this type of reaction from a Cyclops being previously starved, hunted, persecuted, chased off, stabbed. He's had maybe a few friends, but none of them have really stuck with him over the years or made a lasting impact into him. You recognize that he's definitely quite heartbroken, and you asking this question seems to infuriate him even more.
at him and realizing the territory that we've gotten into, and recognizing a kindred spirit, recognizing somebody who is what Wally has been now for several decades and has only recently been forced out of by the rest. Wally is just going to look at him and he's going to put both hands up and just go, all right, I'm sorry.
What?
I'm sorry. I apologize. I overstepped. Maybe I said got a little hot around the collar. But look, the bottom line is we're all friends. No one here is going to try and steal from you or take from you, with the possible exception of Chortley. What's yours is yours. And we're more than happy to share with you anything that we have. Just ask first. Because taking things that don't belong to you, as I think even Laura would agree, is usually something that an enemy does, not a friend.
Laura's gonna nod along, like, yep.
You see his.
Just ask next time before you start grabbing my food.
You see his lower lip quivers for a moment. His eye gets flushed with water, and he looks more embarrassed now, more than anything. You see his rage starts to subside. His eye can't meet yours. He looks down at the ground at the plates in front of him. He pushes it away from him on the table, and he gets this very, almost melodramatic tone to him, and he says, I'm sorry too, Wally.
It's alright. We're all friends here, man. So, help yourself. You don't like these other ones?
No, I don't eat seafood.
Oh, fair enough. What about the nachos? Those things were supposed to be bottomless. Did you not enjoy those?
I ate all of that too.
Alright, well, steady as she goes then.
Our server never came back.
You've got to be what? 5, 6 years old by now?
Yeah, I got married at 8.
What, you got a wife then?
I do. Yeah, David and I were talking about it. He asked me what her name was. I told him I've got 2 kids. You also recognize that his numbers might not be accurate for how old he really is.
Okay. Well, that's lovely then. Meanwhile, now that, we've, managed to avoid the fisticuffs, I was packing things up. I think we were about to make an exit. Anybody want to go try and find out what happened to the kitchen staff?
They left. They're on the back.
Alright, well, I'm going to grab the tastiest looking shrimp enchilada that's left there, and I'm going to throw it into the hearth behind the bar, and think Hephaestus, because I was supposed to, we were supposed to bring Zeus a doggy bag from Taco Temple, but, daddy first. I'm sure even Zeus would want it that way. So, I'm going to send the tastiest looking one to Hephaestus, and then I'm going to throw half of the second tastiest looking one in, and go Zeus.
Alright, it does burn and get consumed readily by the fire. You're quite familiar with this being the typical transaction that happens at camp, and you see as you're mentioning these names and calling out to the fire, it does spark something in Jack for a moment, and he looks about, he's like, I'm supposed to get a Taco 12 pack. Where can I get a Taco 12 pack? Wally, show life, I need your help. Where can I get a Taco 12 pack here?
We said that.
Nobody's in the back. We just take one.
Okay. Do you know what's in a Taco 12 pack? Zeus mentioned it. Jupiter. Laura, are you sassing me, telling me that the Taco 12 pack has 12 tacos? I thought it was some sort of code or something. I don't know.
I looked at the nearest menu to see if the Taco 12 pack ingredients are listed.
You flip open the menu. It's alphabetical. You find the tacos section. You find at the very bottom it says the 12 pack to go taco bundle. and it says 12 tacos, corn tortillas, beef, lettuce, cheese. Your choice, crunchy or soft.
Ooh, do both.
The crunchy soft tacos.
How do we order one here?
Is there any chance we could look at the other tables and somebody else might have ordered it recently?
I mean, we could try.
Oh, you're going dumpster diving. All right, I'm going back to stealing liquor.
All right. You do find 2d12 bottles of liquor.
Oh no, finish their role playing. I was just judging their dumpster diving. I wasn't trying to interject. Go for
Okay.
it.
David, you do get the faint aroma of other tacos nearby. You look over at the rounded table that is just south of your current position. You look over behind you, and you see that they have a beautiful, pristine, almost like a house shape, like a pentagon, but pentagon's a big word, so it's like that shape that's got 5 sides to it. It's like a square with a triangle pointy hat on top. And you notice that it's got the handholds on top of it. It's not even been opened yet.
And that's what we're looking for, right? That's the taco big number pack.
You would have to go investigate. Because it looks to be it, but you're not too sure.
Point it out to Jack and be like, is that it?
Well, let's find how many tacos are inside of it. If there's 12, then yeah, that's plenty. Jack walks. Okay, I'll help you out, David. I got you. You and Jack walk over, open it up, and start to count the tacos inside. There are 6 soft shell and 6 crunchy shell tacos in there.
Do you have enough fingers to figure out how many that is?
I got Jack.
Who needs fingers?
You use the 4 fingers on one hand. Jack puts his 2 fingers next to it and says, that's how many soft we got. Then you count how many crunchy there are, and he puts 2 more fingers next to it and says, that's how many crunchy we got. I think that's 12, David. I think we're good.
Awesome.
All right. Wally, is there a hearth nearby?
Sure. I got one right over here behind the bar.
All right. Jack stands a little taller now, rolls his shoulders back, saunters over to the back of the bar. Hold on, I'm not 21. Am I allowed back here, Wally?
I mean, technically this place is currently closed for business, so we're already breaking the law. Might as well. Come on back. Don't drink anything, or you won't be able to drive later.
Good point. All right. Jack walks on over. It's been a while since I've done this, Dad, but I'm trying to fulfill your request of me to make sure that I get you this Taco 12 pack. While you sit there and watch as he opens the box, unfurls each individual taco, and tosses it into the fire, saying, Jupiter, Zeus. Jupiter, Zeus. Almost as if he can't decide himself either.
Jupiter.
Juice. Jupiter.
I'm pretty sure you just sent, like, one of the Hindu gods something there. And probably a Zimbabwe deity as well. Somehow magically.
Maybe. Hopefully they don't get smacked with the taco by accident. We've got enough people angry at us already.
Are there any other not open or not partially consumed taco-based food things around us?
There are a few. There's some on the bar top. There's some in the other tables behind you. Wally did do a pretty good job of cleaning out most of it, but he only gathered what was on the bartender side of the bar top and the tables you were previously at. So he didn't go to the other 4 on the other side of the wall.
I'd like to go see what's on those tables, see if there's anything that Dad would like.
You walk over and you do see some nacho plates that had bits of shrimp on it. You see a seafood goblet like what Shotley was having, which Shotley actually never received it either. So Shotley might have a word with the manager in a couple of sessions from now. But
Call me Karen, right? It's not too manager.
Get after it.
Hopefully we don't get demonetized by Twitch for using racial slurs.
That's okay. I have a lot of white friends.
Alright. You do find eventually a couple of seafood goblets, some shrimp, some calamari. You find a lot of different options as well. Some rice, some beans, some tacos, a few burritos that are just overflowing with this bounty of the sea. You see some tilapia, salmon, you have some halibut in areas. What are you going to take?
Well, I'm like, I can't remember if Dad, if Poseidon was down with the fish eating.
You have plenty of resources near you.
I mean, I do know that I have a lot of resources. I can't remember if he is cool with eating seafood, because I don't want to give him seafood and have him be like, what the heck, man?
I'm pretty sure he's kind of Mufasa about the whole situation, you know? We eat the antelope and the antelope eat the grass kind of thing. Like, I feel like you've hung out with him enough that you would probably know that. But, you know, I don't want to do the GM's job. What do you say, boss?
Yeah, you are familiar with that, but I was hoping that you'd roleplay asking Daniel, who's the one that doesn't eat the seafood at the table, or maybe talking to Shotley or Jack, or even directly asking Wally.
Are there also any napkins there?
Tons. Some of them are stained with some ketchup. Some have Thousand Island on them. A few of them have ranch. Some spilled beer on them. There's tons of napkins, both used and dirty, and some that are still clean.
I'd like to get a clean napkin and then just kind of yell out, does anyone have a pad?
Laura does.
Laura doesn't feel comfortable giving David her fancy pen. But Laura's going to go over to the host stand and rifle through if there's any, investigate, see if there's any drawers, see if the host stand, maybe behind the bar, has a pen.
Go ahead and roll an investigation check. Wally, you can do the same for behind the bar while you happen to be back there if you wish.
12.
Okay. You do find some small red pens that do flick.
I shouldn't have done it. I just wasted another nat 20.
You find so many pens back there, Wally. It is unbelievable. They have these small plastic cups that they use for it. They are positively overflowing with a plethora of pens.
Do any of these pens give off a faint, mechanical Hephaestus-style aura, as though they may be more than what they seem to be?
You don't find any that are like that, but they do still have a small magical enchantment about them. As you reach out and extend your senses towards it, go ahead and make an Arcana check.
Sure. Oh, good. I've got a boost to 7, so that's a 16.
Alright, as you extend your senses out towards it, you get the inclination that these have been the pens that have been lost over eons. Inside of backpacks, outside of malls, servers losing them inside of their cars, they all miraculously appear here.
Whoa.
You have thousands and thousands of pens. As you pull them out of the container, more pens appear. Do either of you bring them to David?
I'm gonna grab the cheapest little dick-looking one that I can find, and I'm gonna huck it in his general direction. With the cap still on it, I'm not gonna throw an open pen at it.
Alright, David, make a dexterity saving throw.
Let's go. Dexterity saving, lucky 13.
Nice. You blink, and for a moment you see something out of the corner of your eye as Wally turns and hucks a big pen towards you. You don't see it at first. It kind of blends in with the surroundings behind him. It arcs ever so gently towards you. You open your mouth and you find it land inside. You pull it out of your mouth. It's slightly slobbery, but you suspect it still works. This pen is also already pre-chewed.
I probably would have thrown it towards his mouth anyways, assuming his plan was to eat it. I don't know what he needs it for.
I'd like to take the cap off the pen.
It immediately turns into a long sword.
Oh, for the love of So none of them feel magical, but they all are. Alright. That's what a nat 20 gets you right there.
Wally, this isn't a pen.
I want to immediately take a bunch of the pens and just dump them into my backpack. Figure it out later.
You try to remove the cup and it is affixed to the small surface below. You are unable to remove the cup from its position, but you are able to stuff handful after handful of pens into your bag of holding.
Do they reappear in the cup?
They do.
Has the liquor reappeared on the shelf as well?
It does.
Alright, well then, and my leftovers, I'm assuming they're also gone, so I just go and,
They are still in your bag.
I'll go peek into the kitchen, where Chilton's at.
Shelly, what are you doing?
I'm waiting for everybody to get their things situated so we can go find out what's going on.
Fair enough. Laura brings up a good point. David is still there shrugging, wondering how he's going to use this to write. Daniel calls out, "Why don't you put the cap on the bottom? See if that works." You know, like when you're trying to write, you pull the cap off and you put it on the bottom.
I don't think the cap will fit, but okay.
Give it a try.
I'm gonna try to put the cap on the other end of the sword pen.
It immediately turns back into a pen.
That's great.
That is a literary reference if I ever get one.
I would like to use the pen to write on the unused napkin, number 1 dad.
Oof. Alright.
And then get one of the, what was it, the goblet food things?
The seafood goblet, yeah.
Yes, the seafood goblet. Wow, that was such a... The name is exactly what it was, and I couldn't remember what it was. Channeling my inner David here. I would like to attach the note, if I can just kind of wrap the napkin around the stem of the goblet, because I'm assuming it's like your generic one where it's got a wider base and then it narrows in and then it comes back up, kind of goes back out again.
It does have a wine glass-like shape to it, yeah. But it is a goblet in that it's meant to hold almost a full soup inside of it.
But I would like to, if the napkin is big enough, I'd like to try to wrap the napkin around the neck portion of it, like the skinniest part.
Alright. You do.
And I'm going to ask David really quick, hey, does Poseidon like seafood?
Are you asking yourself?
Not, Daniel, not David.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's a personal preference. I don't eat seafood. I don't like the taste.
Fair.
I eat plates. I eat trash. I eat pens. Ink tastes funny, unless it's from a squid. And that tastes bad.
and I'd like to go just power walk over to the hearth and put the note with the cup and the food, because I would like all of it to hopefully go, and say to Poseidon.
All right. You wait a moment as Jack finishes unwrapping all of his tacos, putting them in, tossing them, saying Jupiter, Jupiter, Zeus, Zeus. And as soon as he finishes, you wait your turn patiently. You walk up, you toss yours in, you say with it.
As I'm putting it in, I just say Poseidon.
Okay. You toss it in. You notice that the goblet itself, the contents of it burn. The notes slowly burns as well. And eventually the goblet shatters and burns inside of it as well, evaporating into nothing. You do hear a faint female voice cry out from inside of it as well, as if she is miles off. And you hear her say your name. She says, David!
Yeah? Who said that?
Go ahead and roll a history check.
Oh boy. That's a 1.
You know, you've spoken to quite a few girls over the years. You've got quite a few girlfriends, and over time you suspect they all might start to sound the same the farther away they get. But you get a very faint impression of a godly presence calling out to you with a female's voice from a fire.
I'm trying to think if David would know her name or if he would know her as the Hearth Lady.
And you can always talk to
Fire
Shotley.
Lady. Huh?
You can always talk to Shotley or Jack, who are next to you. Shotley's further behind you, as is Wally.
Shotley, did you hear that?
No. I look around concerned.
You notice that other than the party, nobody else is in the building. Closing time.
Who's the lady? Who's the lady that lives in the farm? I'd like to look back at the fire and go, Estia?
Hi, David.
Hello?
Hi. How you doing?
Confused?
What makes you confused? I saw this note that you gave to your dad.
I fell in a pool. I fell out of the sky. Everyone's left this restaurant place. And don't I usually see you in the fire? I don't see anything in the fire.
Well, you usually find me in a hearth, and sometimes I'm at camp at the bonfire, and as she's talking, she's getting louder and louder, and you start to hear faint footsteps approaching, and eventually you see her face appears as well in the fire, as she looks around and then finds you, and her eyes lock onto you. Hi, David! It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Where are you?
Hello. Did everyone else see this as well? Can they start hearing it too, or is it still just me?
Jack and Shotley do notice. Wally, you hear both ends of the conversation, even though you're not on that side of the bar anymore.
Oh, okay.
You then approach as they're talking, and Jack and Shotley appear to just peer around the sides of David as he's talking to the fire, as you all four see Hestia appear. Laura, what are you doing?
Well, Laura was closer, right? Because she was still at the host stand.
Laura's over here. Daniel's over here. Yeah.
Right. So she'll join the group.
So if you're gonna go this way, or go that way, how are you gonna join the group? They're here at the bar.
Yeah.
You're here.
She'll go around the bar stools.
Okay, so you enter into the bar area, serpentine around the bar top, and then get behind the bar, And you also peer around David's shoulders behind Cholet, looking over him. Wally, you feel a little shadowed by these large figures in front of you. But you're able to see through David's legs at the fire that's below and see that Hestia is there.
Oh, time for some more godly intervention, is it?
You hear Daniel knock over the table as he stands up, be very apologetic to it. It is snapped. It is just now a severed tabletop from its metal base, laying cast off on its sides, and you see that he picks up one end, right to the bottom of it, and trying to put the table back on, and rotating it until it tries to fit back into pieces, and fits back into place, and it hovers for a second, and then wobbles and falls off, and he's quite fixated on that for the moment.
And I'll look over at him and be like, oh, don't worry about it. Although I suppose we could clean it up, I don't suppose you're still hungry.
Yeah, I could eat,
You want to eat this table?
but I just broke it.
Well, better a missing table than a broken one, I suppose.
That's a good point. I can't eat the metal base for it, though. That'll give me cavities.
It's fair enough.
It takes a big, toothy grin, bites into the front end of the table, and you notice it's got these large gouges missing now. Hestia turns to David and says, "So where are you?"
I don't know.
You look to be in a restaurant. You're on the other side of a fire.
Oh, well, here is the Taco Temple.
Oh, you're there? I've heard such great things about that place.
Yeah, the food's great, but I don't know where the Taco Temple is.
Do you know the name of the city you're in, David? Is it in California? Is it on the East Coast, the West Coast? Are you down in Mexico?
Surely speaks up for in Troy.
You're in Troy? Wow, that's quite a ways away, both in distance and in time. How'd you get there?
We fell in a pool.
Is that a metaphor?
And it fell out of the sky.
This isn't a euphemism, is it, David? Are you pulling my leg?
We were at Hearst Castle for a little bit, so I can understand why you would think that. But no, we're somehow in ancient Troy. I have no idea how we got here or why, and I've certainly no idea why the Taco Temple seems to have electricity and things like that in it. I was actually sort of hoping you could tell us.
Well. And she stares a little harder. You see she lifts her hands in front of her face and looks at them, wiggles them for a moment, and looks back at Wally. Wally, just humor me for a moment. Can you throw anything? Just throw anything anywhere in my line of sight. I think this might be a dream.
Take a shrimp off the table, off of the goblet, off of the nearby goblet that's unfinished, and I huck it towards the fireplace.
All right, David. And right before Wally throws this, she finishes giving instructions over to David. And David, you're gonna get to shout something out as it's flying. She says, "David, okay, quick, think of an animal, any animal. And when Wally throws whatever he's gonna throw, shout it as loud as you can. You ready? Okay, Wally, go ahead and throw it." What? Panda. Alright, you notice the shrimp flies end over end towards the fire, and then suddenly shapeshift, transmuting both size and weight, applying mass and shifts into a large panda.
Does the panda then catch fire?
The panda does then catch fire, and get burned and incinerated into the fire. But it was a stuffed panda.
Oh.
Because animal cruelty is bad.
Suppose we should just be grateful we didn't say blue whale.
Well, I think that answers some of our questions, but poses a lot more.
Whose gene is it? Is it mine?
I mean, based off your powers to change things, I suspect so.
Well, does everybody have that power? Like, if Shotley shouts something, will it turn into something else?
Well, give it a try, Laura.
Okay, so I guess Laura grabs another piece of shrimp. Are you ready, Shotley?
Yep, ready to go.
Okay, she throws the shrimp just like Wally did.
And Shotley, what do you shout out?
I try to catch the shrimp before it lands in the fire.
So you nimbly catch it before it hits the fire, realizing that that wasn't what Laura's intent was.
I look at her like, can we do a dry run first, or?
What?
I just don't want to yell at the wrong thing, you know.
Well, like, don't yell a human's name, but
Georgia!
you could just change it into a piece of chicken instead of a shrimp.
You'll probably turn into a live chicken.
Maybe.
I'm gonna toss it in the fire and yell buffalo wings.
Alright, Shotley, as you huck it, it turns end over end in midair, starts out as a shrimp, immediately flies towards the fire, catches fire and stays a shrimp and falls in there. You suspect somewhere a buffalo wing just received a piece of shrimp as an offering. You noticing and discerning a key difference between your reaction and what happened when David said something about it.
So that's all that. It's big of a sleep then. Oh, well, they're inside your head. I hope it don't die. Meanwhile, I probably want buffalo shrimp.
Alright.
If this is a dream that's mine, can we even die? I don't know.
You
I
hear
want to know.
Daniel call out, "Let's not find out!" This table's good. Can somebody pass me some more barbecue sauce for the table?
I would like to grab a clean plate from behind the bar, look at David, and go, I still feel like the jury's out on this one. David, can you make this plate full of buffalo shrimp?
David's gonna point at the plate and say, buffalo shrimp.
David, go ahead and make an intelligence check.
Oh no.
You turn it into a shrimp the size of a buffalo.
The plate itself becomes a buffalo the size of a shrimp. I was trying to come up with ideas for when I get that nice -1.
Shrimp the size of a buffalo is better and more terrifying.
We're actually not gonna have a negative. You were saying intelligence?
Yes, please.
Alright, that's gonna be an even 10.
Alright.
We got double digits today.
You focus your eye onto the plate with all the intensity you can muster, and you point out with your finger towards the plate Wally has in his hands, and you call out, trying to conjure forth this energy, the magic, trying to control your dream, have a lucid dream, and have a moment to shine. You call out, what do you say again?
Buffalo shrimp.
Buffalo shrimp. You notice Wally's plate wobbles in his fingers for a moment. Suddenly, Wally, the plate is too heavy to hold in your hand. It immediately falls to a clatter on the ground, and nothing happens. It almost did, but nothing happened.
Alright, well, you keep working on it over there, Neo. Shortly, where exactly are we going from this point, Ethan? Why are we here? I mean, asking him why he's dreaming seems like kind of a pointless, one-sided conversation.
How do we get out of the room? Anybody have any experience with this?
How do we wake up Biggin? Make him eat spicy foods?
I can stab him.
In true Shotley fashion.
Like, it's not paying for his library.
Well, I'll tell you what. How connected are we in this dream? You know that thing you do where you make him fly across the room and reappear places? What if we tried that now?
I guess I could try. Just don't know how that would affect us in this dream.
I mean, agreed. I don't know if you'd be able to do it. I don't know.
At this point, Shirley will attempt to hold David.
Okay. So you focus your energy and efforts towards David, trying to recall him like you did, pull him towards you to cast your spell. David, go make an intelligence check. This time with disadvantage.
Oh. A disadvantage intelligence after killing me, DM.
That's the goal.
That is a 4, good sir.
Alright, David, you have no clue how the magic Cholet uses works. So when he tries to recall it to you, you get a small, frustrated tummy rumble, and that's all that happens. You get the feeling that if you don't know how it works, it might not work here.
Ooh. That's not a good sign here.
It's also pretty deep for David.
Wait, that means that David knows how Kirby works.
David doesn't know how Kirby works.
I thought it turned into a bag of holding.
It did.
Yeah, because to David, that's what it is. I put stuff in and I take stuff out.
Fair. Oh. Well, I don't think it's gonna work.
Well, what was the first thing that you remember before you fell into the pool? Why did you go into the pool?
I got drawn to the pool. It was like that's all I wanted to do. I don't even remember what we were gonna try to go do. We were just walking, and then there was just the pool.
Well, maybe our answer's outside. Let's go check it out.
Alright, so Cholet's calling for everyone to head outside. Jack and Daniel follow.
So does David.
Yeah, I'll go with him.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, before David goes, does he still have the pen that turns into a big sword?
As far as he knows. Good answer.
Can I have David run over back to the pens where Wally was, grab like a handful of pens, and then stick them in a pocket?
Sure. How many pens do you take?
10.
Alright.
If they're just like normal sized pens on Cyclops sized pens, like they fit into a pocket, no problem.
They do indeed. You get a handful of pens. You have 10 combination of black and blue writing pens. Some are click, some you do take the cap off. Cholet, you lead the expedition out. Is there anything else anybody wishes to do inside of here before they leave?
Not me.
No, good.
Nope.
Alright. Everybody ascends.
You said it was black and red pens or black, blue, and red pens?
Black and blue pens. Laura was the only one that found any red pens at the front.
Okay, I just wanted to write that down.
It's all good. Laura, you do have one red pen in your inventory.
Yes. So keep holding on to
The
that.
only one allowed to correct.
That's fair.
It's not canon until Laura underlines it in red.
Alright, everybody ascends the staircase back out into the city of Troy. Let me go ahead and rotate this so that way it makes it easier for us. 90 degrees clockwise. Fantastic. You guys are at the city center. You are at this area in particular. And what symbol should we pick for everybody to be? You guys want to be a star, a circle, a bell pepper?
Yeah, about that.
Oh,
Because
right.
we're hot.
Well, bell peppers are sweet, not hot. Unless David says they're hot.
Understanding of food.
It is David's dream.
Spicy peppers.
Alright. So you guys are a whopping bell pepper right there in the center of town. You notice that there is a big hoopla as hundreds of people are running from you as you leave. They are running from your left to your right along the main thoroughfare, and they are directly across the street from you as well, running south in the center of Troy, trying to get towards the gates and towards the outer walls, trying to prepare some sort of defenses. You look about and you notice that there are militias taking force, some of them with very well-trained guardsmen with them as well. Some of them look to be no more than 13 years of age. Some of them wearing the orange Half-Blood shirts that you're familiar with. And you start to hear a familiar Ares Cabin chant. David, what is the Ares Cabin chant that they always use before they go into battle to defend or attack a town?
No,
March, 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 stab, stab, stab. March, march, march. Block, a block, a block.
I do like that one too. The march, march, march. Stab, stab, stab. Oh, yeah, just march, march, march. Stab, stab, stab. March, march, march. Squish, squish, squish. Ooh.
Sure, absolutely. I really need to stop giving examples when I...
I mean, I did add the squish, squish, squish because not everyone has stabbing weapons in Ares Cabin. Some of them have squishy ones.
That they do. Some of them have huge morning stars and flails. Some of them have heavy clubs and long pole arms. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of the best weapons ever used in battle weren't stabbing weapons. You notice about 200 faces come running from your left to your right, continuing towards the outer walls and gates. You look off to your left-hand side where everybody's coming from, and they seem to be either going in one of two directions, going back towards the main castle center up there in the northeastern corner of the map, or running from there and trying to prepare defenses for the outer sanctum of the city. And they are running past, and the more you focus on them, the more they seem to blur ever so slightly. Which way do you go?
What, ever so slightly?
They start to blur ever so slightly, as if they are just out of focus.
Well, should we go see? Where should we go? Should we go to the?
Raise the alarm! Defend the city!
Should we help to point at the wall? Like, should we point at the direction they're running to go defend the wall? Like, should we help them and fight stuff? And then point at the road heading towards the big castle thing in that northeast corner? Or should we go over there and see what that is?
You are known for your keen insight, increased wit and intelligence. David turns to you in this time of need.
Oh, great. Okay.
He also turns to the rest of the group, but I'm putting you on the spot because you're coloring.
Yep.
And especially while you try to negotiate on what we're going to do. I'm going to get more coffee.
Oh, okay.
Do I get chips?
You can get chips. So basically our options are help defend the city or don't at this point?
There are some people running in the direction of the big thingy over there.
Mm-hmm.
So should we go?
We're also not entirely sure. I mean, at a certain point, Troy does get sacked. If this is historically accurate, maybe we're not supposed to help. Maybe we're just supposed to witness or something.
Right. Because we're definitely not gonna take on an entire army if Troy's really gonna go down, so.
I think that depends on Neo over here. I mean, it is also a dream. So maybe the one over here could, bend the matrix a bit and get us some tanks or something.
Have we reached a conclusion?
What'd you say, Biggin? Do you have any, torpedo summoning powers or anything you want to show us right now?
I need to. They're usually in the water, though.
That's true. So, are we gonna help these people then? Try our luck?
Help! Help! The city's on fire!
Maybe we should go help them if things are on fire now.
After you.
Don't worry, everyone. I'll save the day. Shola, you look off to your left-hand side. You notice that a hooded figure with purple robes, a thick wooden staff with bulbs on the end of it, comes jumping down off the top of a building and ninja runs all the way towards the front gate off to your right-hand side. You recognize this character as being incredibly familiar. He twirls it over his head for a moment as he continues to run. Looks like he gains a burst of movement speed. The edge of his staff does seem to glow and take a different hue and bend and warp the light around it as he generates a ton of energy with it before he whacks something with it and then quickly jumps again onto a different top of the building. Are you familiar with this character?
I am not, but I'm wondering if this is like David's old interpretation of Shotley being a sneaky rogue. Like before getting to actually know him. But no, I do not know what the character is.
Shotley, are you familiar with the character?
I want to take a good look around, see if there's any more distinct characteristics.
You also notice that another hero seems to be answering the call. This one has a very Spartan-esque shield. It has a round frame, a large masculine point to it at the front. He has a spear protrusion in one hand and says, "I'll follow you into battle," and and takes flight. You see huge flaming wings sprout from either side of his shoulder blades as he launches forward, high into the air, and seems to disappear for a moment as you then hear the descent of wings towards the edge of the gate. I didn't quite hear you over the dogs.
I look over the group and I say, well, got some old friends here. There's legends on the island. Oh.
So they've got a lot of world and our humans here.
Yeah, maybe we should go. Yeah, let's go help them not get curb stomped by legends. So David's voting to help defend the city.
You've spoken to a few.
Oh, some more.
But David's putting to a vote. What does everyone do?
Okay.
David's voting to help defend the city. So regardless of if you know who's fighting, David's already taken a side.
Right.
Because David's like, this doesn't end well usually, and there weren't legends before.
Daniel reaches out a big hand, pats you on the shoulder, says, "Don't worry. Together we've got two good eyes. I'm with you." Jack says, "I guess it can't get worse. I mean, we know how the story is supposed to end anyway, so why not try to stop it?" The dogs are in.
Cholet says he's into.
Bork.
Well, this is your dream, David, so if this is what you want to do, then I guess I'll stick with you.
Or you can have once and decide to stick around.
That's true.
It's certainly not my dream. There's nowhere near enough eggs and sausage.
They were on the menu, but he was more occupied with the idea of the double-decker enchilada.
At that comment of the, like, if it was my dream, there'd be more eggs and sausage, David's going to try and, like, imagine Wally with the sausage links around his neck, penetrating down like a scarf in a bowl of eggs, and see if he can make any of that pop up.
As you focus on Wally, you see his hands get outstretched in front of his body. Materializing in his left hand is a brown bowl filled with eggs. In his right hand, a very large, kind of bent and askew fork, missing the bottom half of it, as if there's like these metal ridges that have recently been bit off, that you remember you bit off yourself. And you see a huge length of sausages, links and all, dangle from around his neck down to the floor. They just barely touch the edge of the dirt nearby.
Cool. Appreciate you, biggin. And I'm gonna start chowing as we walk.
And no matter how much you fill your gullet, Wally, you still feel hungry.
Do the sausages and eggs keep refilling themselves?
David? Does he start at one end and slurp it like spaghetti and there's still sausages on the other end?
Yeah, because if he's gonna keep feeling hungry, I want to see him. I would just think it'd be fun to watch him like slurp it, thinking, oh, there's only gonna be 10 links in it, and he gets to the last one and it just becomes like the clown handkerchief where there's another one and another one and another one, just chains falling.
This is David's dream. If Wally spends the rest of his eating, that's fine.
David also wanted to see if he could play with the dream a little bit for that.
So far, you have a very high success rate with food.
Alright, so yes, the food will regenerate, at least until Wally's like, alright, I'm done with the food. If that ever happens.
Alright, Wally, how much do you eat?
I can eat and walk at the same time. It's not complicated. So I'm going to continue to eat as we continue towards whatever destination we're headed towards.
All right, David. Sounds like you're taking points on this endeavor. Where are you heading?
So I would, since we're in that red square, correct?
Presently, you are out front of the red square.
We'll go back between the buildings we came, like down that alleyway we came through before to get here, to get to that entry road.
All right.
Make a right and start heading towards the front, because that seems to be the one way to come in.
All right. As you are spearheading this endeavor, you get to determine your marching order for who's up front. Who has the highest perception in the group?
Passive perception?
Passive for now, but perception skill would also be helpful here. Laura, you've got a passive perception.
I've got a 3.
So you have a +4. Shirley's got a +3.
+3 as well.
Wally's got a +3.
So passive is 14?
Yeah, it's 10 plus your perception skill.
Got it.
So it does appear that it's a tie between Laura and Jack for who's got the highest passive perception, being 14, and you have a +4 to your perception skill. So you and Jack would be able to keep your eyes open the best passively as you're going about without having to take too much notice and roll for your perception skill in particular. David, what does your group of merry men look like as you approach the gate? And women.
I think we only have one choice now that he's described us that way.
So it's going to be David and Daniel in the front, just because meat shield, in case anything big goes wrong. We got the best chance of not getting splattered. And then Wally and Jack and Shotley and Laura, because I haven't really seen Laura do too much fighting, and she doesn't seem like a up close and personal fighter. So I don't want Laura to get splattered.
So
Thanks, David.
You form a flying V formation, David and Daniel side by side. Cyclops walking forward towards the gate. You have on your left-hand side, tailing out behind you, David. You have Wally and Jack on your left. Behind Daniel, you have Cholet and Laura, tailing off to the right. As you are the maverick, you are the leader of this group. As you approach the gate, you're able to roll perception for the group, as is everyone else afterwards as well. David gets first chance. Go ahead and roll perception, everyone.
That is a nat 20, so it's a 21.
Savage, or 30-20. Cholet,
Yes.
what did you roll, my friend?
I rolled a 6.
Nice. Wally?
I apologize, I didn't realize I was included. What am I rolling?
Perception, please.
I certainly shall. I thought you were just asking for the modifiers. I didn't realize there were other two. So that's a 4.
Alright, so we'll go in order of least to greatest. Sorry, least to most. And we will finish off with David's nat 20. As you all walk up, you find that Daniel and Wally, you two are the first to notice that on your right-hand side and left-hand side you see open stalls. This was a previous market of some kind. You see tons of fish, tons of fruit, tons of swords and weapons. A whole market available to you. Some have clothing, Some have different bits of hardware that you think David might have seen Wally working with before. You see some acetylene tanks that are clearly not set up for work, but look as if they've been recently used. You see a small disconnect in logic between them, but David does know the different parts of it because he sees you using it. He does see some of the safety equipment present as well, and you recognize that there's a lot of stuff here that David's recently seen at open markets and malls and flea markets nearby. A lot of rugs, oddly enough. A lot of rugs and towels in different directions. After that, we have Shotley and Laura and Jack following up with the next tier. Shotley, you notice first that everybody here that was previously occupying this area has either infiltrated back into their houses trying to hide. They have removed themselves from the area. You hear a bunch of doors start to slam. You hear large, heavy wooden blocks fall into place, trying to bar doors. You notice that the windows up above on the second story to many of these buildings shut, and you hear the loud wooden shutters coming to a close. As you look about, you notice that everybody seems to either be getting ready to fight and prepare for the siege, or hide in some manner or another. You look off to your left as you're recently leaving from the Taco Temple, crossing into the open air. You look behind you as everybody else is looking forward. Just since you're so nimbly aware as a rogue, you try to keep your eyes open for every direction. You look behind you and you see columns of troops come marching down towards this area. They're in a column-like formation. They have 2 at the front, and it's 10 deep, so there's 20 in total. And they seem to be marching and chanting in order. David, can you give us a reminder of what the chant was again?
How was it? March, 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 stab, 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 march, 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 squish, squish, squish.
Right you are, my friend. You hear this thumping up, and you notice that with every march, they're thwacking their swords against their shield. With every stab, they seem to be stabbing upwards with it. With every squish, they seem to be pounding it down. They have a marching sort of rhythmic tone to them as they're approaching. And they seem to be, quite frankly, enjoying the premise of battle and getting ready to fight. You do look about, and Shelley, you notice that there's no smoke from any fires that have been previously called out for help. And then continuing on, we have Jack and Laura. Jack and Laura, you two recognize the guards that are the front of these columns. You recognize one to be Manson. As you look back and you see him, and he is the one that's calling out and chanting, keeping time, pounding on his shield, giving the rhythm and tone for everyone. He says, "To the gates! To the gates! March, march, march! Stab, stab, stab! March, march, march! Squish, squish, squish! Fight! Fight! Rah! Rah!" They all chant back to him as they're all leading the procession forward. Jack looks about and says, "Weren't there clouds in the sky before? And wasn't it light out when we landed? Why is it turning twilight and turning dark all of a sudden?"
Well, this is a dream. Can't expect time to obey laws when physics won't.
You have a pretty good point there, Wally. David, as you look about, you look towards the gate. You see 2 heavy wooden doors that are shut. They are definitely going to be quite the sight if you're ever going to try to protect anything or siege to it. You have never seen something so big and well fortified immediately explode. It sends shrapnel coming in towards the city. Immediately you see the head of a ram on this huge siege engine that was swinging back and now swings forward. As it impacts the wooden gate, you see it explode inward towards you, imploding in your direction. The wooden timbers get thrown and cast asunder. Guards that were blocking and barricading the area are tossed off. The walls themselves seem to be trembling as the vibrations reverberate from the siege engine. All of the guards are tossed off their high horses, essentially, off their feet onto the ground and get dirty, rolling around in the muck. Some of them get stuck for a moment, and you notice as they have to wiggle a little bit like turtles to get themselves up and right themselves, get on a knee and stand up as more troops come marching in. They have a different formation though, David. What kind of formation do they have? They're falling in around the siege engine, starting to enter into the city and start to lay siege to it. What are their tactics like?
So the first couple rows, like the first few rows, it's going to be a shield wall.
All right.
And then the spearmen in the second row to just kind of do the bulldozer down the street in case there's any resistance. And then following them will just be, the sword and the shield, or the club and the shield, or things like that. And then kind of sprinkled through there will be the ones with the bigger weapons.
All right. So, I need everybody to roll initiative again. I'm going to go real slow. I'm drawing the map, and you want to write down.
I can write it. That'd be great.
Man, I used my good roll for that.
No.
For the perception. David got a 6. Charlie with a 24.
Ooh, nasty. Get up on.
Was that a nat 20 over there?
Yes, I was.
Nice. Just write down what you want. Wally, what did you roll?
16.
Is that everybody?
Yep. I didn't add. I don't know what name was Jackson, but I added words.
Okay. Perfect. All right. So I'm drawing up a battle map. Hopefully Laura will be able to help me out with taking a picture of it so that you guys can see it as we go. But if not, I will let you know this is not my best work. But pretty close. So, David.
Yes.
I need you to roll me 2d8s, please.
First one's a 2. The second one's a 6.
All right. So they're going to be 8 men abreast for the shields, followed by spearmen. Nice.
Well, you make the bulldozer.
There's going to be 13 spearmen. They were also previously the ones operating the battering ram, the siege engine that has knocked through this wooden construction, this gate. And the men with clubs and swords following behind them. These are fewer in number, but still just as deadly. There are 7 of them. They appear to be of much larger stature as well, and only have one eye. Then there's the long weapons experts that are behind them. There are 5 of them. Alright. So, remembering our marching order, we had David and Daniel up front, followed by Wally and Jack, and next to them being Cholet and Laura. Let's see if we can get some fun, interactive terrain going for you guys as well. Give you some cover to work with.
Well, while you're working that, I'm going to walk really real quick. I'll be right back.
Go for it. Go! Is everybody able to see the document on screen?
Yes.
Nice. All right.
That one beautiful door.
Those two doors, they definitely got wrecked real quick.
They got shreked. You go past that. Come on down, real big doors. I'm wondering if David could just be like, please go back doors. And the doors go,
I mean, you are the one.
and then everyone will be like, I'm confused about the doors.
Why is it at 90 degrees? Then a shell layer. Then we're going to have another layer for David. Alright, so let me describe what Cholet sees so that way we can all get into the midst of things. Cholet, off to your left and right, you see scattered bits of market stalls. They have been completely abandoned and left behind by their owners and merchants that were occupying the area. With that in mind, you also see a few other opportunities for you as well to take cover. There are 4 what appear to be large, round projectiles that have been launched over the edge of the castle walls at some point or other, and have left small trails rolling from the edge of the wall towards where they have come to a stop. They are the large black round balls on the screen. You notice that the 2 wooden sections of gate have exploded inward in front of you, and they are laying off their hinges, torn asunder in broken, tattered pieces on the floor in the dirty market square outside of the town gates. The city of Troy is completely under siege, and you notice that the guards that were on this wall are now on their backsides, falling apart, not really doing much to help the situation. But you do recognize that none of the legends that you saw previously are here yet.
I want to quickly glance at both sides of the market to see if there's a weapon market.
There is a couple of the stalls off to your left that do sell weaponry of one type or another. The first one, closest to you on the left, does sell cutlery. It has a large assortment of knives present.
I'm going to make my way towards that stall.
Alright. So, you're about 20 feet away, so that's going to expend 4 points of movement from you. Do you know how many points you start with?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I start with 19.
Nice. Alright, so you expend 4 points of movement moving over there. I now realize that animating this for you guys is going to be way more difficult than I thought, so we'll just do our best, alright? So you spend 4 points moving over there. You find a large section of the stall occupied by knives. What you gonna do?
I'm going to go ahead and take 4 knives without throwing says.
Alright, you find a plethora of options available to you. What do they look like to you?
They just look like slightly larger kitchen knives. Not
Nice.
too big, but not too small on the blade.
So that takes 1 point to arm yourselves with these 4 knives.
And at this point, I will.
You have 14 points
I will
remaining.
be hiding in between one of the stalls and kind of just waiting to see until how everybody else positions themselves.
Alright. So you expend 3 points. Go ahead and roll stealth for me. Using your hide action.
14.
Nice. Alright, good to know going forward. You do have a whopping 11 points remaining. Do you want to do anything else on your turn?
I'm just gonna stay on, kind of stand by and keep a watch out.
Okay. So you're going to delay the rest of your turn to not then act until something happens? Are you waiting on a specific trigger for something to cross your path so you can stab them? What are you thinking?
I'm thinking on either someone crosses and just take the opportunity to stab, and if not, then to react by throwing one of the knives.
Okay, good to know. After Cholet, we then go to Wally.
Hey, so, wow, really, I was that high up in the order.
Yeah, you rolled a 16, right?
I did. I just thought more people were ahead of me. Okay, so going at it for a second. Character-wise, Laura and David both already seemed like they wanted to defend this place, and it's David's dream, so maybe we're supposed to. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that him still steering the ship is the way to go. I'm gonna take out my hammer from my belt. Did he dream me my hammer properly? Does it look like my hammer?
David, go ahead and make an intelligence check.
You're killing me.
Maybe he dreamed it better.
I don't know. We got the lucky number 13.
So, Wally, you reach to your hammer, and what typically has a substantial heft to it, it does usually have a heavy metal feel to it. You press it in your hand, and it sounds like a small squeaky toy for a moment.
Okay.
Does it at least look like his hammer?
It does. It looks entirely like his hammer, and while you do impact things normally with it, it does make the small squeaky sound.
Okay.
Oh, we're doomed.
I'll tell you what. You know what? This is going to be a big character building moment. We're going to find out what David really thinks of Wally in terms of how strong he thinks Wally is. Because Wally is going to take a look at the battle map first here. Wally is going to that siege engine that's still sitting there in the middle, poking its way through.
Mm-hmm.
What's it made of?
It's made out of wood and a lot of metal components to it that look to be adhering or affixing wood to wood. So there's wood and metal and a very broad head of a battering ram to the front of it and long rope-like cables draping over the top of it that uses the momentum to swing back and forth to try to knock open the gate.
And near it there are other catapults, things like that. I'm assuming made of similar stuff, wood and rope and.
You would suspect that to be the case. You do not see any from where you presently are. Everybody in front of you is currently occupying most of the view from beyond the gate itself. You suspect further back, more towards the coastline? Yes. Maybe a trebuchet, a catapult of some kind. Other siege engines, yes.
Alright, how far are we from the enemy?
You are 60 feet from the front gate. Well, from where it was. Now it's kind of closer.
My range is 6 feet. I'm going to move 15, find the biggest, ugliest looking mofo in the front row, and throw my squeaky toy for his forehead.
Alright. Go ahead and attack with advantage. And are you choosing to advance to behind cover of one of the large boulders that have come tumbling through, or just closer?
I would like to be, partial cover, because I need to be able to pull off the throw.
Sure.
Cover?
You can, while in transit, huck your hammer, or take a defensive position, huck your hammer over top of it taking cover would not affect your throw.
If I take half cover, would that help my ability to see where it goes and then retrieve it afterwards?
Unless the cover is between you and your hammer. But you could huck it in between.
If I take half cover and peek out from behind the rock, when I get there and I see where it hits, can I then reach out with, the half of my body that's out of cover and pull it back?
For sure. You can reach a hand up over top of the boulder and it'll come to the hand.
Okay. I was just trying to avoid it, being a blind retriever kind of thing.
Fair. So of the 4 boulders that are in front of you, do you choose to take cover behind any of them?
I'm going to take cover behind, I said I was only going to move 15 feet, so I'm going to go behind the one on the right, the furthest right there.
Alright. Go ahead and make your attack with advantage against the first shieldman on the left-hand side of the entering brigade of attackers.
Yeah. Okay, so I am a very bipolar night going here. I've been rolling a lot of 1s, but you just told me to roll this attack with advantage, and I rolled 19 and a 20, and I have a +7 to my range to hit, so that's going to be a crit. Nat 20 +7 is a 27 to hit.
Fantastic. That does hit. David.
Yes.
Let's go ahead and get a description from your beautiful one eye. You watch as Wally scanters over to the side, ducks behind this large black boulder that has been hucked over the edge of the wall, peek his head out, sidearm, huck a hammer. It changes color and glows in transit. What color does it change into?
Like a fiery red.
Nice. And while it's in transit, it kind of takes shape, and it's a geometric pattern. What kind of shape does it look like while it flies?
Man, I don't know. That was just good. I thought it'd be cool as a hammer, but
It can take the shape of a hammer.
Yeah. David likes seeing the hammer go flying through the air. It's pretty cool.
Okay.
You want to give me like a cross hammer and sickle thing, or are we going full communism here?
It looks to be a very large hammer, and while it flies, it doesn't rotate at all. It just maintains its current shape and size and direction with no rotation or spin. Flies straight and thumped into the face of this soldier. It seems to cave in his face entirely as if it was sucked in like a small balloon inside of a vacuum. It does still, while his face is compressed inward, you see just the hilt of Wally's hammer sticking out the front of it. And he looks taken aback for a moment as his body rocks on impact. And David, you hear a small squeak from it. Wally, what else are you going to do?
The hammer's on the street. The hammer's out of street.
So you moved 15 feet using 3 points. You made your range attack using 5. That's 8 points. You have 9 remaining.
Noticing that it was glowing, can I reach out with my mind and try? I mean, it's somebody else's dream, but he's maybe seen me do stuff like this before, so maybe it'll work. I want to reach out with my mind and see if I can get that hammer to detonate and give some fire AoE damage to the people standing nearby.
Do you have any spells in particular you'd be using for that?
I do. Where is my character sheet? I'm pretty sure that one's a cone, but I think one is circular. Check. Oh, look. Okay, so I've got a fireball spell. Third level evocation spell. It is instantaneous. I can throw any catchphrase, satisfy the verbal. The magic, mechanical, material are already in play, I believe.
You do not have the fireball spell yet. You have the arcane trickster options of the mage hand, control flames, firebolt, burning hands, fog cloud, earth tremor, and absorb elements.
Oh, so I should be looking at the bottom list and not the complete list at the top. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
You're good.
flame, if the hammer's already glowing and on fire, could I then use control flames to just make it detonate the energy?
Based off the spell for control flames, that is manipulating a fire that is already present. The heat and energy that is inside of your hammer is mostly for thematic purposes and does not appear to impart any fire damage or ignite anything on fire presently.
Burning hands would just be from my hands.
Correct.
I'm using the hammer to evoke that, but it wouldn't be from where the hammer is. It would be me holding the hammer to make that happen, right?
Correct. Yes. It is how you channel your energy, not the source of it.
Well, worth a shot. In that case, I will just attempt to recall my hammer from within that dude's cranial cavity.
All right. So you moved 3 spaces. You fired. You're pulling it back. David, something funny happens about when he's trying to pull his hammer back. What happens?
As it's being pulled out of the face region of the person that it is currently inside of, it kind of stretches a little bit, as if it doesn't quite want to go, but part of it is wanting to go, so it stretches a little bit. But as it finally detaches, it goes. It squeaks on the way down.
Nice. All right. Wally, go ahead and roll damage for your hammer.
It's 1d4, which is a 3 plus 9. On the right page.
So it would be your dexterity modifier plus 1.
So 5.
3 plus 5 is 8. Yes, sir. You deal a whopping 8 points of facial bludgeoning damage to this guard. If he wasn't already the ugliest one on that crew, he is now. You easily catch your hammer as it flies back to you. Since it's a dream from David, he doesn't know if it's hard to catch it or not. You just always catch it anyway. So you don't need a roll for that one.
How many points left?
8 points.
So we busted in the gate. Is there a portcullis maybe suspended open over the doorway?
There is now.
Okay then. Where is the retaining rope for it? Within my eye line?
So there's a small crankshaft-like device that looks to be the wheel from your ship off the right-hand side of this large area that is currently taut, holding a large chain to the portcullis above the main force that's trying to get in.
Okay. Then I would like to... A few points left. Sure, let's give it a shot. I'm going to take my hammer. I'm going to channel my... Too far away. I'm just going to huck my hammer as hard as I can at the safety release for that crank to see if I can get it to let go of the catch and just drop that gate.
All right. Go ahead and make a ranged attack again.
Maybe get a few people right in the head. Is this one with advantage?
No, sir.
It's okay. It was already a 16 plus 7 to hit to 23.
Nice. All right, so you do hit it. It flies end over end this time, actually rotating in midair, and collides with it. Go ahead and roll your weapon damage, Wally.
Ooh, 4 that time, so that's a 9.
Nice. All right. This one, you notice it does impact the almost like ship's wheel that's there with all of the supporting pegs on the outside where the chain is wrapped around. It hits and collides with it, shatters, splintering the middle portion of it, and the chain goes slap. You look up towards the portcullis and it still remains hovering there. You suspect David hasn't thought about it falling yet. Do you look or say anything over at David?
How many points do I have left?
You have 3 points remaining.
How many was it to pull back my hammer that I lost time?
It's 1 point.
Okay, cool. So 1 point to pull back the hammer for sure.
Alright, you got 2 remaining?
And then I am going to turn to David and yell at him. I broke the chain. I wonder if that breaking thing over there will fall like that chandelier did in the well. Remember? With all the spiders?
Oh, yeah.
As David realizes that gravity is applicable to heavy metal objects, you notice the portcullis shudders for a moment, dust falling off the edges of it. The guards look up comedically. Huh, wonder what that thunk. As the heavy metal gate portcullis falls on top of them, severing their lines in half. Only the shield men are forward enough to get through. Some of them are cut up by it as it's falling, and they are expunged, foisted, shunted forward, and they separate their lines. Now the shield men are the only ones left out in front. Wally, I also forgot to ask you to roll sneak attack damage on the one guard that you knocked his face in.
It was a nat 20, so I'm pretty sure that guy's powder with sneak attack added in.
They have quite a lot of health.
Really? So even a crit with sneak attack damage wasn't enough to brain him? Okay.
That's why I'm asking you for damage, my friend.
Fair enough. I couldn't dream of it. Yeah. Apparently, your dream bad guys are pretty strong.
Yeah, a little tanky. You've given me too much power in the dream world, DM. This is gonna get weird.
It already is.
Weirder than a flaming squeaky hammer. Although I am wondering, if we ever go into a Wally dream, will it just be filled with machines, eggs, and sausages?
I mean, I don't think you want to dig too deep in his subconscious. You're lucky if that's the layer that you land on, where there's just robots and protein.
It might be sad on other layers.
That's alright.
It might be sad on other layers.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so far, we resolved the layer that David really knows about Wally. He hasn't been too open about much else other than his love of stacking things with a hammer, robots, sausage, and eggs.
Which is why everyone but you is probably going to own this fight. You know your own abilities incredibly well. You probably think we're really strong.
So what did you roll for sneak attack damage, Wally?
Sorry. 3d6, right?
3d6, yep.
So that would be 10.
Alright, doubled is 20. And you rolled 7 from your hammer, which was a 3, I believe, so you double that. 6 plus 4 is 10. So altogether, that is 30 points of damage that you deal. And you have 1 point remaining.
I'm going to bank it, just in case an attack of opportunity should present itself.
Alright.
There's nowhere for those shield people to go except through us at this point. There's no way they're lifting that portcullis.
So far, Laura, you're up.
Oh boy.
This is the
Okay.
active battle now.
Oh, that's okay. I'll use the one on the screen too. Oh. In the corner. Okay.
Yeah, Shirley's hiding over in the corner waiting for somebody to walk by so you can stab him or get close so you can fucking knife at him.
It's all good. Does Laura notice that nothing that Wally did worked until it clicked with David?
Yep.
Okay.
You also don't know what spells
Yeah.
David knows that you have, so you don't know if they'll work or not.
Right. Okay, so she'll just turn to David and go, out of our group, who do you think is the strongest?
Are you just hyping him up?
No, I'm just asking.
I mean, I did get the snot punched out of me by Daniel. So if we're talking muscle strongest, probably him.
Really, Dan? When Laura straight dissolved a Minotaur in front of our eyes?
I don't know. Did you see that?
He would have looked about for a moment.
Know that lady can kill bulls with the best of them.
I don't know if I did see her do that because I was clobbering the Chimera with the ankle.
Do you believe Wally when he tells you this?
Yeah, usually the things so far all the things Wally's told me, haven't been wrong or nefarious.
Does Wally notice Laura's muscles getting any bigger?
They don't seem to grow or shrink directly. No, not yet.
Yeah, great. Okay. Well, let me rephrase. Who do you think would be the best at beating up these bad guys?
Everyone, even David knows, so even I know. Everyone kicks the butt in their own ways, so I don't know who's exactly the strongest.
So you're saying these bad guys don't stand a chance, is what you're saying?
I mean, so far we've beaten everything we've come across.
Please don't say so far when it's your team.
David knows the prophecy, though. He knows that there's some bigger, scarier boyos coming down the road.
Does David think about those bigger, scarier boyos?
Sorry, what was that?
Does David start to think about those bigger, scarier boyos?
No, he does not.
Good answer.
Okay. David, do you know how magic works?
Not really.
But he knows that it works.
You do some stuff and magic things happen?
I think that answers my question, thank you.
I should have been able to detonate that hammer.
And one day you'll definitely know a spell to do that.
No, that's what I'm saying. David doesn't know my spell book. In his mind, I could probably pull it off.
Yeah. You could have just looked at him and said, "That was a grenade." He'd be like, "What?"
Give me ideas, why don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, Shelley over in the corner is slowly turning invisible the less David thinks about him. So David,
Oh boy.
you're gonna watch as Shelley decapitates people in a second.
Who did that?
Laura, what you gonna do?
I don't know. Laura's not feeling super confident in her abilities right now.
You do have spells like command.
David's feeling confident in your abilities, though. You're good.
You also have a very...
As David, since he knows that you do some things, and some magic happens, and I seem to be able to do the things in whatever this 3D place is. How do you do magic? If it makes sense to me, it might work.
Okay. I believe Laura's going to try to cast a spell on you.
Yes. And she's going to pretend she knows how it works. Okay.
Go ahead and read it to us, Laura.
Great. Okay. It's called Guidance. And says, you touch one willing creature. Once before the spell ends, the target can roll a d4 and add the number rolled to one ability check of its choice. It can roll the die before or after making the ability check. The spell then ends.
And
So I don't know what that means.
so what that does is allow whichever creature you touch
Okay.
to then roll a d20 for any attack ability check or anything that meets that criteria,
Uh-huh.
and then add a d4 to it. So if he rolls like a 16, but a 16 isn't high enough to hit,
Uh-huh.
and before I tell him that it's not high enough to hit, he can add a d4 to it and roll up to a 4 and add that to it, making the total now 20 versus the 16. That's what guidance does. So it imparts a numerical advantage to his probability.
Okay.
That's what the spell is supposed to do.
Uh-huh.
But I think if you tell him what you want it to do,
Right.
it might be even stronger.
Well.
I keep trying to point out. I'm like, was she hooking up?
Well, Laura was thinking maybe she could use guidance on David to either like figure out how to control his dreams better, or which is not. I understand what the spell is for, but that's
you
why
can
I
try
need to.
command.
Right, I could, but it's not a prepared spell, or I'm trying to stick to
since
the rules
you pointed
here.
it out, that it's not a prepared spell. Now it's not a prepared
Yes,
spell.
I know.
But you did sleep last night. You could have chosen to prepare that in the morning.
Yes, I'm
so
trying
would
to
you
stick.
have done that?
I'm trying to stick to the rules.
Okay.
I don't know what the rules are, but I'm working
Okay,
on it.
well, if we're gonna go with that, then if this is a dream and I don't know you have to prepare things for magic to work, I just assume it works.
Mm.
Do you
It is.
have to prepare a spell then?
It is also one of the few spells he's ever seen you use.
Right, and
or
it works.
seen used at all.
Yeah.
You saw Lupita use it.
Right, and it worked pretty well the last time I used it. Flipping to the page.
Yeah.
I don't
You
remember.
could just look at him and go, David, I know a spell that makes them pee their pants and run away. It goes with this. Gobbledygook. And point at him.
Okay.
Forgot the word run was. Well, they'll try. They'll pee their pants and run into each other and then just later sobbing.
Like one does, you know.
We'll have to cheer them up and get the old Adam Sandler trick.
Yeah.
This is getting weird.
Mm-hmm.
You can also delay your turn if you haven't really anything about you.
Right. Well, this would only work on one.
Use one creature near you who you would want to command to do something cool. Starts with a D. You have two options near you. I'm giving you a loaded gun.
Oh, he gave me one of those.
I did. Alright, Laura's going to delay her turn. That goes over towards Daniel. Daniel's going to look over to David. And for David, you get a moment of recognition as his eye meets you. And he says, You must have some really weird dreams. You know what's really fun? Raging! As he then flexes and his muscles bulge, he seems to almost grow in stature and size, and you remember from your fight with him that he was definitely really good with the mean left hook, a couple of straight jabs. He's really good with the body shots. You never saw him wield any weapons, so he just starts to tear at his clothing and starts to run at them. He's going to use 12 points of movement to get over towards them, and he's just going to jump straight into the fray, into the thick of it. And he's going to grab one of the guys with the shield and pick the guy up by the shield and throw him at the other guys down below.
Oh.
Trying to use one guy to hit the rest of them. He's going to make a contested athletics check to see if he can grapple and pick the guy up. With his bonus to strength, he does. The man in the heavy armor, the guard in front of him, acting as a gladiator does, trying to defend himself, raises his shield to protect himself from the onslaught of this Cyclops, realizes that he's going to come up short against the strength of this man, gets picked up by his shield and hucked onto the other men. He does 2d8 damage, which is a whopping 14 plus the strength modifier of the Cyclops, is going to be 21 points of damage. The rest of them take 1d4 damage as he just plops them on top, which is 2 plus the strength modifier of 7, so 9 points of damage to the rest of them. He looks over and gives a big doggy-eared grin, smile from ear to ear, looking over at David, and says, "This is fun, right?" As he then tries to grab another guy and do the same thing again. This time he, unfortunately, is not able to, the defender getting a critical success there, not able to lift the guy up and seems to struggle against the shield as he looks over at David and his eye giving this pleading look as if asking and calling for help. Jack looks over at the other guys, sees that they're starting to form shields, form lines. Their shields are locking up. He's going to flick out his wrist, calling forth his lightning bolt, and fire it at the group on the left-hand side. He's going to make a ranged spell attack against them. He rolled a 1. So unfortunately, that's going to be a failure. The electric shock is going to go wide ever so slightly since all of the guys have been toppled onto the ground. The electric shock fires and hits the portcullis, reacts with the metal in the large gate that had been lowered, severing the lines of the troops, and it does seem to spark and shock, conducting the electricity from it, and it repels the previous spearmen that were behind it, sending them backwards in a large explosion-like release of electric energy. As he looks over at David, and you see a big smile come across Jack's face. It's like, that was even better than what I had in mind, Biggin. We go from Jack, now we go to David. You're up.
Cool. So Daniel is he's still actively grappling with the shield person?
By the look of it, yes.
I'd like to get my anchor out of my backpack.
Alright, you reach back, and you find you have no backpack anymore. You just have this big anchor on your back.
Oh. Well, I guess I don't have to try to get the anchor out of the backpack if it's already on my back. I'd like to take the anchor and throw it at the shield person that is grappling Daniel.
Alright, go ahead and make a ranged attack. That is going to be utilizing a d20 and your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus to hit.
Oh, that's a +7.
Yes, it is.
Which I need because that's gonna be a 9.
Ooh. Unfortunately, that's not enough to hit the creature, but it does impact the portcullis behind it. What do you choose to do?
Can I have it do the grapple hook thing where it kind of sticks to the wall and then it pulls me towards it?
Absolutely. So in a fraction of a second, you traverse the distance to close in against the man that is grappling against Daniel. You fly in. How do you choose to fly towards him? Kung Fu action style. You get to pick your pose.
I'd like to. I want to fly. I was thinking of a couple different ways. This is a dream, and we're having fun with a Superman pose.
All right. So you turn horizontal, one fist out forward as the chain is quickly retracted into some random place. You're not too sure. It forms this ethereal bond with your soul that you're still yet to figure out. But as you are well aware, the chain does seem to be the magical length that you need it. And if you're choosing to get pulled towards something, it seems to work well for you. You fly and cover the distance in a fraction of a second. Go ahead and make a melee attack. This is going to be an open-handed or closed fist of your choice against the man that is struggling against Daniel.
Closed fist.
Nice. All right, Superman punch.
Super punch. So, okay, that's That's a nat 20.
Nice. Alright, so as you're familiar with, you deal 1 plus your strength modifier damage. So that's going to be 5 points, doubled to 10. Nice. So you deal a whopping 10 points against this guy. And you now are within melee range with him. He loses his grip as Daniel picks him up off the floor. He is now in Daniel's arms, and you are side by side with Daniel, and you are looking down upon the other 2 guys that are on this side of the portcullis when it crashed down.
How is Daniel? Is Daniel holding him by the shield?
Daniel is holding him by the shield. Since you punched him, where did you punch him, by the way? Did you punch him in the head, the chest, the leg? Did you stomp on his foot?
Probably punched in the chest.
Nice. Alright. That is just enough to send him off balance, so Daniel's able to lift him up, heave him over his head, and hold him up above the rest of his friends down below. You are now standing in an unoccupied square. Daniel has the gladiator in his arms lifted up. There are 2 other remaining fighters that are part of this brigade that are attacking on your left-hand side, and your anchor is immediately in front of you.
Can I grab the one that Daniel's holding by the shield? Can I grab him by the feet so we can turn him sideways like a log and then throw him at the other 2?
Sure, absolutely. So go ahead and make a strength check with advantage since Daniel's going to be helping you here.
21.
21. Alright, so you heave this heavy, metal-clad man, end over end, like a log, straight over into his friends. Go ahead and roll 2d8 damage.
First one's an 8.
Nice.
And the second one's a 7.
Nice. Whopping 15. And then go ahead and roll a d4 to see how it lands on the other guys.
2.
Nice. Alright. So it dealt 15 damage to him and 6 points of damage to his friends nearby. You recognize that you've done quite a bit of damage here. You have 8 points remaining. The 2 guys that were in front of you, they had recently stood back up after they'd been knocked over by Daniel. You then heave their friend back on top of them, knocking them down again.
I'd like to bank those points to do more of a kind of defensive block in case they charge.
Absolutely. All right.
I haven't done it because you said it.
Indeed, they are.
Or they might not.
No, it's your dream, dude. If you say it, it happens.
All right. So the gladiatory gentlemen that have entered and penetrated the outer wall are going to try to take back their fight. They're going to stand up using half their movement and then start to encircle around David. And they're going to take a couple of swings at you. However, David, because this is your dream, instead of them attacking against you, you're going to be making wisdom saving throws to see if you can prevent them from hitting you. So go ahead and make a wisdom saving throw, please.
That's going to be a 9.
All right. So they both hit, and they're going to deal 2d8 damage apiece. And unfortunately, since you're not raging, you will be taking full damage from this. So that's 7 and 10. So that's 17 points of damage against you, David. This is going to be piercing damage as they stab into you with their swords, trying to deal maximum damage. That puts you at a whopping 43 remaining. The other members of the crew are going to try to encircle around Daniel. They're going to use half their movement to stand up. They're going to try to get close, but they don't quite reach it as they get about within 5 feet of you, trying to circle around to get towards Daniel. They form a triangle-like shape with the 4 of them. guess it's just a line, not necessarily a triangle, as they're trying to circle around you, closing in on you and Daniel. We then end their turn, since they're not really able to do too much against you, using most of their movement just to get close. They do call out to the remainder of the crew that is on the other side of the portcullis and say, "Break it down!" And they shout that backwards. And you notice that the battering ram swings back and swings forward again, and you hear a thump, and it sparks with electricity, sends a few of the spearmen flying off of it, like they are sparks off of a fire. They say, "Do it again!" And they keep whamming and wailing onto it. And you notice that the gate itself starts to warp and bend forward towards you and Daniel, reaching the verge of its breaking point. Shotley, you stand back between two of the main stalls on the left-hand side, and you have your 19 points to start off with. You moved over, armed yourself, so you're going to have your maximum AP ready at this point. How are you going to use it? You have your 29 points available.
The map isn't updated, right?
No, it's not, so I'll take another picture of it just in case. That way, hopefully it's easier. Alright, so on the screen you should be able to see that there are still 4 boulders present. Shelley, you are off on the left-hand side. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so hopefully it's easier for you. You're over here on the left-hand side, in between two of the carts, arming yourself with a bunch of knives. You notice that Daniel and David are over here, quickly getting surrounded by the encroaching members of the opposing team, the other side of the fight, and are looking to be soon overwhelmed by their forces since they're getting quickly surrounded. What are you going to do?
Wait, is this Shotley or is it?
This is Shotley presently.
Okay.
And I'm sorry, you said Daniel and David are...
Daniel and David are quickly getting surrounded.
Okay, and they are where those big circles are, or not?
They are over here. So this is Daniel and David. They are on the north side of the map presently, just in front of the gates.
Oh, right there. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna run towards the barrels, or the circular objects, and once I get in range, I'm gonna throw 2 knives at one of the nearest guards.
All right. So let's have Laura pick a color. What color do you want these gladiator guys to be?
Green.
Green. All right. Neon green?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So that's where they are. Shelley, you're this X that's over here. We're going to move you over towards here, paste you into place. Right there, as you're hiding behind that area for cover. You're going to throw your daggers, your new kitchen knives that you've armed yourself with, against some guys that have backsides turned towards you, right?
Yep.
All right. So, go ahead and make your ranged attack. How many attacks are you going to make?
I'm gonna be throwing 2.
Okay. So you spend 10 points, 3 points to move, puts you at 16 remaining.
13. It's going to be a 19.
Alright.
And a dirty 20.
Alright, both hit. So you're going to be dealing 1d4 weapon damage for your dagger, and you're going to also be able to apply your sneak attack damage since they are currently focused on your allies and have not seen you and are currently distracted by David.
Does the first one crit already, or no?
They have acted, unfortunately, already in this.
I forgot. Yeah, they have to not have it actually.
Correct. So you do get to still apply your sneak attack damage.
Okay, so I will go by 1d4. 1d4 plus 1 is 8.
Nice.
Plus my one dagger. The other dagger will be. Oh, sorry, I was rolling a d8. I was rolling a d4.
Your weapon damage is 3d6, right? For sneak attack?
My dagger? I thought my dagger was a d4.
Your dagger's a d4 and your sneak attack should be 3d6.
I was rolling a d8.
Fair enough.
Alright, so my first dagger is going to be dealing 3 damage. With 3 plus 1, so 14 damage to the first guy.
Nice. Alright, and the second one also hits, so did you roll weapon damage for that one, your 1d4?
Oh wait, sorry, 14. I said 14, right?
Yeah.
So it's 1d4 plus 4, so that's actually an 18, my bad. I forgot that. Basically.
Alright. So you throw these daggers, they fly end over end and land sink right to the hilt in the back of this guy. You notice it looks like he's wearing armor, but your knives seem to penetrate straight through it, bulging and warping the metal itself as the knives embed themselves to the hilt in his back. What are you going to do next?
At this point, I will throw it at the other guy.
Alright, you draw out another knife and throw it at the other guy. Go ahead and make a ranged attack.
It's going to be a 13.
Alright, 13 unfortunately does not hit. This one, as you throw it, the guy does manage to look back at you since you stabbed his friend, sees it coming and ducks out of the way. It does impale his friend though, and it does land in his head. Go ahead and roll weapon damage.
It's going to be 5.
Nice. So David, as you're looking out, these guys slowly encroaching around you. A couple of them were stabbing at you. You notice 2 of them sort of look distracted for a moment. One of them reaches back and turns to jut his chest out forward in pain, as if he's been stabbed in the back. And you notice he does that twice. That's kind of weird. And then you look over, another one slightly off to the left of that guy ducks out of the way of a flying dagger. You see it come real quick, flying through the air. You hear it whistling as it's running by. And it lands in the face of the friend next to it. And you see that it hits him, it embeds itself into his face, hilt deep, and he falls down to a knee in front of you. Charlie, what else you got?
At this point, I will be throwing my last dagger out.
Alright, go ahead and make a ranged attack. And who are you throwing it at?
The guy who the dagger didn't hit.
Alright, so the one that ducked out of the way. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Go ahead and make a ranged attack.
It's going to be a 17.
Nice. 17 hits.
It's going to be 8.
Nice. 8 points of damage. Max damage. Alright. With that, you notice that the troops themselves seem to be taking a little bit of exhaustion. They look to not be so happy at this exact time. You do still have 11 points remaining.
Did the first guy who got the knife started, did he fall over?
He seems to be jutting his chest out forward, not falling over just yet, but looks definitely very hurt.
I'm just gonna move one to the other circular object closer, and just kind of hide behind that one.
All right. So you're gonna move from this position. Move up and over. Over to here or closer towards the jack?
To that one, the middle circle.
All right. Fantastic choice. All right. After Shotleg, we then go to the back to the top of our initiative order. Sorry, to the second in line. Wally, you're up.
So we still got 5 bad guys.
By the look of it, yeah. He didn't take them down now, but he did do some strong damage to them.
They're surrounding the monoclopses. 3 of them have their backs to me, by the look of it.
Yes. Less of back for some of them, more like side eye, but you can definitely get a couple of good shots in.
One definitely should have his back, unless he is standing.
He's standing facing towards Jack and Laura, where Shotley was quickly diving towards to hide behind the boulder that's there. So he's turned his back towards David and Daniel since he's dodging daggers being thrown at him.
Okay, so nobody has their backs. Alright, well in that, I will just do regular damage by taking my squeaky toy and hucking it at green guy that is on top there, on the right.
All right, go ahead and make your ranged attack.
Ooh. That'd be a 26, sir.
All right, 26 hits. Go ahead and roll your weapon damage.
That is a 4 plus 5 is a 9.
Nice, and then go ahead and roll your sneak attack damage because you do have an ally adjacent to him.
Woo! So the 3d6 added up to 10.
Nice. Alright, with that, you notice as this hammer flies, it flies solid and true, nailing into the chest of this guy, and he absolutely just combusts in the shower of golden dust. David, you get completely covered in what you can only assume is the remains of a previous demigod that is now golden dust covering your chest. He went poof. Wally, with your 13 remaining points, what you gonna do?
Pull back the hammer and wind up for round 2 on the next guy in line.
Alright, go ahead and make your ranged attack.
That's just going to be a dirty 20.
Alright, that also hits.
Okay, alright. Here's the D4. Damn! Alright then, I will take another 9 points.
Nice, 9 points. This one, he wasn't as battered and bruised thanks to a dagger from Shotley. He was the one that was dodging. This one, you're able to knock him square in the face again. David, this one does a little something funny to the guy. It knocks him over onto his friend. What happens?
So when he gets hit by the hammer, the impact and the squeak cause him to stumble, so he kind of does that arm flailing over the top cartoony stumble and drops into the other friend that he does.
Nice.
Like, whoa.
Nice. Alright. So that's one down. And the other two are knocked prone around the corner from you guys. Not around the corner, sorry. Knocked down prone in front of David and Daniel. Wally, you have 7 points remaining.
Rinse repeat on dude number 3 in that particular line. Who should still be standing, right?
There are 4 total still there. 1 you hit in the face and tumbled onto his friend. So there are 2 still standing, but they are on the other side of David from you, and the other 2 are on the ground.
Oh, okay. All right.
And you do have disadvantage when you make a ranged attack against a prone target.
When you make a ranged attack against a prone target, you have disadvantage?
Correct.
Oh.
You can aim for the ones that are standing.
That doesn't make sense, though. Because wouldn't they be easier to hit when they're stationary?
They're harder to hit. That's why commandos will typically go prone when firing at each other.
Okay.
I mean, that's what my army men taught me. That's why there are fewer men that are crawling about.
Okay. Well, in that case, green dot on the bottom of the left-hand line is still standing, right?
Correct.
Can I use my movement to get shoulder to shoulder with Shortlet?
You can definitely move over towards him if you wish.
So that my shot is not through Daniel or David?
Absolutely. So you expend 4 points of movement to get over in line with him. That leaves you with 3 points remaining. Four.
Bang.
Alright. Got 3 points banked up. Alright, so we go to Laura.
She'll move to the boulder thing that Shelly and Wally are at.
Alright. My apologies.
29.
Yep. Why are you making fun of my lines? Alright, so you move over towards this boulder, sharing the cover with your friends.
And how far away am I from David?
You are about 30 feet away from David.
Okay. Laura's gonna try some weird dream sequence-y stuff with David. Okay. Alright. Magical things. Okay. So, Laura is going to yell to David. And... and...
Are you clapping your hands like you're a cheerleader, getting ready to cheer?
No, I'm hyping myself up, sir, because this is probably an awful idea. Okay.
You won't know till you try.
Very true. Okay, so Laura's gonna yell to David and say,
"Hey, ugly!"
No. David, what do you know about the concept of time?
Kind of a vague question.
Societal construct. Okay.
About time?
about time, the passage of time.
I mean, I know that it happens. I know that the clock arms move, and that means the time goes by, and also the sun moves in the sky.
Yeah, that's perfect. Okay, so did you know that I can control time?
Really?
I
Go ahead
can.
and make a deception roll, Laura.
Yep, it's gonna be great. Yay! It's gonna end poorly.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. You rolled so well. What did you roll, Laura?
I rolled a 3! I can control time, guys.
David, go ahead and roll insight.
Roll an insight.
Yeah, go ahead and roll insight check. Make sure you find your
Okay.
skill on here for deception,
Okay.
because this might be helpful.
Wait, I'll have it.
There you
-1.
go.
So a 2.
David rolled a 22.
Well, there goes my whole plan. Never mind.
What were you trying to get him to do? You can still just tell him to think
Yes,
it.
I was just trying
But
to...
lying to him about it is clearly not the best way.
Clearly not. I was gonna try to... You want me to what?
Keep trying.
Okay.
Persuade him.
Well, I'm trying to tell David that I can stop the movements of the two guys that they're still fighting.
Okay.
Yes. And that I'm gonna cast a spell to... A command to stop the two guys' movements.
Because you control time.
Because I can control time. For specific targets that I want.
David, do you believe her?
I mean, I haven't really seen all of what Laura can do, so for all David knows, she might be able to just stop time for people. He doesn't know what Laura can and can't do. He knows that she does magic, and that magic's really, confusing to him, so he's just like, well, if you say that it can happen, you can do it. Obviously it happens.
Alright. Laura, go ahead and make a ranged spell attack against the two guys.
Sure.
With your spell attack modifier.
Oh, okay. And that is...
Not a bad idea. It might be a horrible thing to try.
So it's an 18.
Alright, so you do succeed. You manage to lock them in place, giving a command word. What is your command?
Freeze.
Fantastic. So glad. That works amazingly well. These two guys that have been previously stuck with daggers and hit with other friends manages to freeze in place, spit still falling out of their mouths, profusely pouring out of them. Blood that was dripping around them from their wounds freezes and hovers in place. They are restrained and immobile presently. Laura, you want to do anything else?
No.
Alright. You bank the rest of your points. We go to Daniel. He is entirely confused by this situation, and he taps David on the shoulder. David, do you turn to look at him?
Mm-hmm.
Did you know she can freeze time? Does that mean can I move? I don't know how this works.
Well, you tapped on the shoulder. I think you're good.
Okay. Makes sense. I guess I'll just crush him then. David walks over and with his giant hands decides to make a crushing motion with his hands on the sides of this guy's head. I'm going to have Laura roll an attack. He has a +7 and his proficiency bonus is a +3. So that's 17. That hits. So he's going to deal 2d8 damage with his hands. This is crushing damage against the skull. You are just awful with dice, aren't
Yeah,
you?
I'm just not gonna roll anymore.
He deals 2 points of damage with his 2d8 plus his 7 strength modifier for 9 damage. David, you watch as this man squirms for a second between the hands of this Cyclops, and then gets crushed and turned into dust and pools at his feet. That ends Daniel's turn. We then go to Jack. Jack looks about everybody, looks pretty happy. Things are going his way. He's going to, in a rush, come charging up to try to join the fray. And try to join with Daniel and David and see if he can deal a killing blow against somebody and help you guys out. He's going to make a melee attack against one of the guys that is prone, and then another one at the guy that's still standing. Laura, will you roll 2 d20s for me, please? No, but I'm asking anyway. I'm going to stop asking anyway. So that's a 11 against the guy. Sorry, that's a 14 against the guy. That's prone. Misses. Then he's going to then attack the same guy again. So 2 d20s again. Nice! I don't know how it pays off for you, but you apparently now roll nothing but 20s. She rolled 2 20s, boys.
Ooh.
Yeah, with advantage. You don't want to space them out, do you? You want them all now.
Yep. Get it over with.
Yep. Alright. So with that, Jack misses his first attempt as the guy is squirming on the ground. He steps right between the guy's legs and stares him down. Withdraws his golden saber from the dirt, then walks up with 2 hands over his head, impales it through his chest, disintegrating the guy into the dirt. 2 down. Then you'll crush the other one.
Oh, okay, got it.
Pick them up off the ground and crush them. After Jack, we go back to Shotleg. Two guys left, my friend.
At this point, do I see any of the daggers on the floor or on bodies?
You do see that where they were previously impaled on these guys, they are now on the floor. All 4 of them.
I'm just gonna run up, pick up 2, and then jump on the nearest guy.
Alright. Go ahead and make a melee attack.
That will be...
These are finesse, so you will add your dexterity, right?
Yes.
Nice. Alright. What did you roll?
15 total.
Nice. It's not quite enough to hit, but you do manage to get within melee range of the guy, and you do tackle him. You knock him to the ground, and with your first strike with just your left hand, you're pressing it in towards his chest. He grips it with both hands as he tries to fight you back. You raise up your other hand in a downward strike. Go ahead and make an attack with advantage.
I don't even need it. It's gonna be a crit.
Oof.
Oh yeah.
Alright. So, you do get sneak attack damage as well. And that damage will also be doubled.
So what is the damage? Is it still a 1d4?
It is a 1d4 for your weapon damage.
Okay. 2, so it's going to be 2 plus 4, it's going to be 6. 6 is 12. So I've got 12 damage that I've rolled.
So you double all the dice, so your 3d6 and your d4, and then you add your dex mod.
Wait, I'm confused.
So you roll your 1d4,
Okay, I rolled it.
and you roll your 3d6,
Okay.
and then you double all of that,
Okay, so it's going to be 24.
and then you add your dexterity modifier.
4, it's going to make it a 28.
Nice. With that, you notice your dagger plunges into his chest. Right as you expect to feel the resistance of his body pushing back, it passes clean through him and he disintegrates into golden dust.
At this point, I will take up the other dagger.
Yeah? Your hands are full of daggers still. You can choose to pick up more.
And I'm just gonna go at the other guy.
Alright. So he did watch you run up and stab his friend twice, but he does have a big guy still distracting in front of him. Go ahead and make your melee attack against him.
23.
Nice. With this, his eyes transfixed upon you as you approach. You slowly get within inches of him. You can feel his breath on you as you stab him in the chest with your dagger. You press it in, put your hand over his mouth so that way he doesn't make any noise, and he disintegrates in front of you. Ending combat. You do look to your left and notice that the siege engines are still wailing away on this portcullis that's there that's been slammed down by Wally. They look like they're going to be able to break it any second, and they have such huge numbers on the other side of it. You suspect this might not be a good fight to take on your own. You look back down towards the street where you guys came from, and notice that there are more guys still coming behind you. The column of units that were rushing behind you have now come up and are going to try to relieve you of your duty. 20 of them take up a small arc-like formation, a half circle, or a crescent, some people call it. They take up arms, shields at the ready, prepared for their assaults.
What do you think, Biggin? Looks like they got things handled here.
Yeah, looks like they'll be able to do the do.
I mean, we stopped the main invasion, didn't we?
I think.
Or at least held them off long enough.
David would like to, before we turn it over to the two rows of soldiers that came up, I'd like to look back through the portcullis at the gate, at the siege engine that's just going all hammer on it.
Yeah.
Simon says freeze.
Go ahead and make an intelligence check with disadvantage.
I'd say it can't get any lower than the first one I just did, but it can. But it won't. I rolled a 0.
Ooh. Alright, as you reach out your hand saying, Simon says freeze, the large, swinging, heavy ram's head impacts against the portcullis, shattering and warping the metal around it, exploding towards you. You say, freeze, like you saw Laura do trying to bend space and time like she did. You notice that the now projectile gate freezes in place and disintegrates into golden dust in front of you as the large spearmen take up their ready to arms and they start to march towards you. There are about 13 of them. And then there are 7 men behind it with huge clubs, and even further back, men with halberds. These are long, pike-like weapons that have large bladed axes on the fronts of them. And they appear to be quite well armed and definitely very scared.
I'm going to grab David's arm and to get his attention.
Do you mean Daniel?
Thank you. I got my notes confused. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Daniel's arm.
You do.
Daniel's arm. Get his attention. Point at the rest of the group and be like, We should go over there.
Alright, I'm following your lead. He follows with you, walks through the troops that are there. They seem to part for you as you approach. Jack follows suit. Showleg, you follow as well?
Yes, I follow as well.
Alright. So you all manage to make your way out. Wally, you stand back as all of these soldiers come rushing forward past you. Your friends seem to weave between them as they approach towards you. And we're going to get a front row seat as these two opposing forces come and meet in the middle. These 20 shield and swordsmen are going to come towards the large spear and clubbed men and very heavy weaponed men in the back. And they're going to come to blows. Laura, do you mind rolling a 2d20 for me?
I'm gonna start eating my eggs and sausages again.
As if it's popcorn sitting there behind cover. You watch this fight unfold. David,
Yes.
you watch this, and little do you know that you are also orchestrating this fight in your head. You're watching these two armed forces come to blows at this city gate. Who wins?
So
It's
I think
really
what
close.
I'm watching it is, since he's orchestrating it in his head, it's kind of one of those like, oh, it'd be really cool if that guy did that and it happened. And it's one of those like, oh, that was cool kind of things going on with David. But ultimately, the defenders do hold out. It looks like it's pretty even for a while, but David wants his side to win.
Okay. So they do encroach. They do come line against line, shields form a front, and start walking towards the spearmen. The spearmen poke out some of the legs of the front fighters. The other members seem to lock their shields in a almost turtle-like huddle formation. And they approach, and eventually their two lines get close enough that they start to spear and stab each other. In a flurry of blows, you see helmets go flying, shields get torn off, bits and pieces of armor gets cast over the edges of the wall. You hear a lot of clanging and a lot of metal warping and bending. Eventually you hear some rallied cries from the defending side and some very weird screams from the other side as they start to turn tail and run, leaving behind their siege engine as they flee the battlefield. David, how many of the shield men are still alive on your defending side?
Half of them.
Half. Okay.
They were pretty good shieldmen. But, then they took some spears to the shins and then spears to the squishy bits.
Squishy bits do suck.
Yeah, that's where all the important bits are.
Alright. With the retreating army fleeing, you do look out over the edge of the city, looking out towards the open waters.
Mm-hmm.
You do see the sandy shore is completely filled, as far as you can see, all along the horizon with encroaching ships. Some of varying sizes. Some are small little dinghies out in the distance. Others are these huge triremes that seem to carry hundreds of men at a time forward. You suspect this fight is far from over. And with that, we are going to end our session for the evening. Any ideas for a title, gentlemen?